Hello everyone and welcome to Wrestling with Evil. My name is Luke and I've been wanting to do this tier list for a while. Sorry I haven't really had it out until now. But this is the only channel that does Resident Evil playthroughs, speed runs through video games, and does tier lists. So I wanted to do this tier list because Rick and Morty season 4 just wrapped up probably about 2-3 weeks ago, maybe. I've been a little late on the obviously trying to get this out, but I wanted to do this because I love Rick and Morty, and I'm a huge fan. I got the hat, I got the T-shirt right here. I'm pretty much all decked out in Rick and Morty stuff all the time. So I felt like this would be a perfectly good opportunity, and also this show fits very well into the theme of the channel. Obviously the name of the channel being Wrestling with Evil. So the Smiths and Rick are constantly wrestling with evil. I like I said, it definitely fits the theme. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little synopsis about what these characters are, who they are, how they work, and how the show portrays them. If you don't watch Rick and Morty, you'll learn a lot about it, but also there's going to be a lot of spoilers. So definitely watch the series, binge watch all 4 fucking seasons before before watching this tier list completely. You have been warned ahead of time, but this is a phenomenal series. If you like sci-fi shit and just weird shit, and obviously drama and interdimensional travel and shit like that, then you will love this show. I love this show. I adore this show. This show is so great that it's phenomenal. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a little backstory on who the characters are. You have Rick, who is one of the main characters alongside Morty. Rick is the grandfather, Morty is the grandson, and Rick, he's an alcoholic. He refers to himself as a god, but he's a mad scientist, and he can create anything that, the mind can ever think up. Like, he creates some shit in this show that I'm going to gloss over, that just really blow your mind, literally. He's a drunk scientist. He refers to himself as a god. He pretty much is a god. He's pretty much invincible. He can do anything. And then you have Morty, who is he's Rick's grandson, and he basically is really dumb as opposed to Rick being very smart. So that's why he takes him on adventures, because he's like a shield for Rick. Because Rick has a certain certain brainwave that can be detected, and Morty is the shield of that. It neutralizes the brainwaves. So they have sci-fi adventures. They go to different dimensions and hang out and talk to aliens, and it's really, really cool. A really, really fun show. And then Beth, who is Morty's mother, Morty and Summer's mother. Summer is Morty's sister, obviously Rick's granddaughter. Beth is just as smart as Rick, just as irresponsible, as an episode made that very clear. She's exactly like Rick in many, many ways. She has, like I said, she's very smart. She has all the capabilities of Rick, besides being like a super, super genius. But she's a very loving mother. She loves her family, and that's where her and Rick differ. Rick doesn't give a shit, but she does, and she loves her family. So makes for a cool dynamic. And then you got Summer, who is the bitchy sister, who is very nihilistic, brutish at points, very odd. So is Morty too, but she's very odd, very open. I think she's very open sexually too in the show. But she's a very complex character. She's a lot smarter than Morty and their dad Jerry. She and like I said, she goes through this metamorphosis of getting darker and darker as the show progresses, which is really cool, really neat, really unique. And then you got Jerry, who is the typical guy, honestly. I'm not gonna call all guys stupid because that would be insulting myself, and I'm not gonna do that. But no, Jerry's very simple. He's very naive, dim-witted, and you see that a lot in the show. He's portrayed as like a dumbass, as Rick's the hierarchy in the family, and then you got Jerry, who's like the lowest of the low on the totem pole. So yeah, but he's a very loving father. He loves his family, and but he's just really stupid. He's just stupid shit throughout the whole entire show. But I personally have a soft spot for Jerry. I think he, he's that type of person that, yeah, he's dumb, but, like, he's just trying. He's not trying to be smart or super sophisticated or anything. And, Jerry's just Jerry. He is a Jerry, So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a synopsis of what the tiers are. It goes from favorite, which, obviously is the best, to the worst, don't watch at all, which, like I said, my opinions are subjective. I'm not going to diss this show at all. Well, I might, have a few gripes about certain episodes, but overall, I love this show. Every episode is pretty unique, really amazing. It tells a great story, and, I would never diss Rick and Morty, trust me. But here's the thing that I think is, like, you don't have to be smart in order to enjoy this show. You don't have to be smart at all. You just have to be intellectually in tune with... to be very intellectual and open-minded and have a very creative mind. And that's what I think the directors have, that create this show, because it's fucking, it's so spot on. It seems intelligent, but it's kind of, useless. It's very dumb too at a point, or to a point, but yeah, so you go from, I'm going from favorite to good. Obviously favorite is the best, the episodes that I like the most, the most watched, episodes that I really, really enjoy the most. And then you have good, watch sometimes, don't watch that much, barely watch, and don't watch at all. I'm not gonna call any, like I said, I'm not gonna call any Rick and Morty episode bad. So, yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in order, actually, from the first episode to the last episode that aired. There's 41 episodes in total so far, 4 seasons. So there's going to be episodes I'm really fond of that I'm going to want to talk about more. I'm going to try and make it maybe 2 or 3 minutes for every episode. Give you a brief summary about what the episode is, and then put it in a tier list. And then after I'm all done with each, I'm going to put it in the order from best to worst. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And before I start, let me please say, if you're new to the channel and you like Rick and Morty, you're a fan of Rick and Morty, I plan on doing more Rick and Morty stuff later on down the line once I get, more production, savvy. And I get like an editor, because I don't edit videos. I do this all in one take, motherfucker, because I ain't no puss. So yeah, but if you're new to the channel, definitely please like and subscribe. That would help the channel grow immensely. You have no idea how much that helps. And if you would like to support me in another way, you don't have to, and you don't even have to like and subscribe if you don't want to, especially if you don't like the video, but if you would like to support me in some other sort of way, Patreon is definitely the way to go. The link is going to be in the description. Check it out if you want. I'm definitely going to do some revamping on the Patreon. I just haven't had any time. This coronavirus has been killing me, guys. But I also hope you guys are safe. So let's get into this. So the first episode is the pilot. So I do enjoy this episode. It's not the greatest episode in my opinion, but it sets the tone for what the series is. Like, it starts out with Rick coming into Morty's bedroom drunk as hell, and pulls him out of his bed. Like, Morty just has his underwear on, and he takes him, and that's how the episode starts. And he takes Morty into his spaceship, and he says that he's gonna blow up the Earth and create a fresh start. And it's like, what the fuck? Already? What? And then, he's gonna blow up the Earth, create a fresh start, and he's gonna go get Jessica, which is Morty's crush, and it's gonna make it like a new Adam and Eve type situation. And he's gonna blow up the Earth and whatever, and then he falls asleep, passes out drunk, and before the bomb detonates, and I guess Morty kind of diffuses the bomb or whatever. It doesn't show you anything. It's like off camera, but you could hear the bomb detonating. And then it goes into Rick and Morty's first adventure. Rick goes into Morty's high school, pulls him out of school, and it's just like, or no, actually no. The episode starts with Morty falling asleep on the table, in his breakfast, like face first in his breakfast, with Summer saying, "Oh, he's been out all night with Grandpa Rick," and like I said, spoiler heavy. This tier list is very spoiler heavy, so like I said, you've been warned. But Rick takes Morty out on their very first adventure, and he's just like, "Look at all this cool shit," and they're on this this alien planet, and there's some creepy, weird shit going on and whatever. And he's just like, "Morty, relax, Morty, relax," and he's like, "No, Rick, there's some scary shit over here." So basically, what happens is he wants Morty to go collect a seed. It's called a mega seed, and then Rick is just like, "Hey, like, I'm gonna give you these shoes, climb up on there," and he tries to climb up on there, and he slips off the tree to get the fruit, and he breaks his legs. And Morty's sitting there in agony for like 5 minutes. Rick does a portal, and he goes to another dimension where they made medicine to cure your legs. So that was really funny, and you just have Morty sitting there in agony for like what feels like forever. They finally get the seeds because he heals his broken legs and whatever. And then Rick's just like, "Oh shit, Morty, I don't have any charge left in my he has this little gun, portal gun. He's just like, "I don't have any charge left in it. It's good as gone, Morty." And like they have to go through interdimensional customs. So Rick's just like, "Okay, well, you have to put that mega seed up your ass." So he puts this pointy ass seed up his ass. They go through interdimensional customs, which is controlled by the Gronflamites, and you're gonna hear a lot about the Gronflamites during this tier list. But basically, he puts the seed up his asshole, and like they put Morty aside because they have a new machine that detects stuff up your ass. So Rick's just like, "Okay, we gotta run." So they run, and a bunch of shit happens. Like at that point, there's like this one guy who's like smoking, obviously like a drug or something, and there's like a little baby, a little fetus in the cartridge that he's smoking out of. It's almost like a hookah shaped thing. And Morty runs past that, and like he gets the smoke. He inhales the smoke by accident, and he like hawks this loogie up that turns into a person, and then grows up into a full adult, and then gets old and dies of a heart attack right on the floor as they're running away. I thought that was pretty funny, and Morty makes his first kill in the very first episode where he shoots one of the Gronflamites in the head. But Rick tells him that they're nothing but robots. So like, it was okay to shoot them, and Morty felt so bad because like, the Gronflamite had a family and whatever. So it was just a really cool introduction to the series. It's not the episode that got me into the series. Like I watched it chronologically from first episode to, obviously last episode that came out recently. But it was definitely a very good introduction. So basically, they get home, and it was too late because the seed already like, dissolved in Morty's butthole in his anal cavity, and then Beth and Jerry were talking about, putting Rick into a nursing home. So they're trying to put the smartest man in the universe in a fucking nursing home. And then he convinces Beth and Jerry that Morty's getting smarter by hanging out with him. So they're just like, okay, well, he'll go out on adventures because now he has a friend and whatever. So, it's really cool. And they say that Morty has some sort of disability. He's like, because he's not very bright, he's not the smartest, tool in the tool shed. But as the show progresses, Morty gets a lot smarter by hanging out with Rick. He actually does. So I like this episode. It's a good introduction to the series. Where is it? This actually is not in order, and I did that on purpose for you guys, just in case you want to do your own list and you don't want to go in order. But where is it? So yeah, the first episode is right here. I'm gonna put this in. I'm gonna put this in the good category just because I like the episode. And it's the very first episode. So let's move on to the next episode. So, we have Lawnmower Dog. Now this is probably one of my favorite episodes. It's the episode starts out by Rick saying that he wants to incept you know, incept the idea into his math teacher, Mr. Goldenfold's mind, that to give Morty better grades in math, which is just like, why don't you just give him some money or bribe him somehow? I don't know. But you know, Beth and Jerry were mad at Rick in a previous episode for Rick taking Morty out of school a lot. So basically he tries to incept his teacher to get an A, to give Morty an A. So he goes into his dreams. It's like an inception type thing. So he wants to incept that into his math teacher's mind, and they go through a whole bunch of crap to get there. Like, they go into Goldenfold's dream, and then they go and some shit happens, and they go into this lady called Mrs. Pancake's dreams, and then into a centaur. When they go into Mrs. Pancake's dreams or dream, it's like a sex dungeon. It's really weird. And then Rick, he basically what's it called? He has to knock out like the centaur looking dude. So he incepts, himself into the centaur's dream, and then you see like this 80s style horror like music. You hear that music playing, and then Scary Terry pops out, which he's like a knockoff of Freddy Krueger, like an 80s knockoff of Freddy Krueger, but instead of having Freddy Krueger's name, obviously his name is Scary Terry, and he has tiny swords for fingers instead of knives. So it's really stupid. It's really dumb. And then so they're getting chased by Scary Terry because he can go into dreams. Everybody knows that. So basically they hit like dream bedrock, and they don't know what to do and whatever. So basically Rick and Morty try to tire Scary Terry out so they can go into Scary Terry's dreams. So they do, and Scary Terry's having a nightmare about not having any pants on in school, which like that's a pretty hardcore fucking nightmare. Like that'll frighten anybody. That'll scare anybody. That's a really shitty ass dream. But yeah, so they stepped into Freddy or Scary Terry's. They go into his dream, and they give him pants. So and then Scary Terry wakes up, and he's just like, "Oh, I owe you guys, thank you." And like he's a lot more happier now because he's not having nightmares and shit, which is like, it kind of answers the question of just like, does Freddy Krueger actually have nightmares? Or so I don't know. But it's really cool. And then they get Scary Terry to do them the solid of incepting the idea into Goldenfold's mind to give Morty Smith better grades in math, and it works. So yeah, but also there's a side story going on during that whole journey of Jerry, and before Rick leaves to take Morty on an adventure, Jerry asks Rick if he can make their dog Snuffles smarter. So he gives him a device, puts a device on the dog's head to make it smarter, make it a more like sentient being. So that's what he does, and then the dog gets smarter and smarter and smarter, and makes makes the amplifier that he used. It puts like more batteries in it and makes it more powerful, so that way the dog can get even more smarter. And then it gets to the point where the dogs like figure out what humanity has done to dogs in order to make them subservient, little buddies, pets. And they don't like that shit, so they basically take over the world, and then Rick comes back, and he incepts the idea, and the dog Snuffles wants to be called Snowball, because his fur is fluffy and white, and so Rick incepts the idea in Snowball's mind, to, stop trying to take over humanity and to find their own world inhabited by dogs. So, that's how the episode ends. So I love the episode. I haven't watched it in a while, though, but I'll say it's one of my favorites. I always love going back into it just because there's a lot of, the shit that goes on. It's like this show, man, it's so good. It's really, really good. So let's move on to episode 3. It's Anatomy Park. Basically, it's like it's a Christmas episode. There's like an undertone of Christmas and whatever. And Rick builds a park inside of this homeless guy, and it's called Anatomy Park. And it it's like Jurassic Park kind of, and all the creatures, I think there's like hepatitis A, hepatitis B, and like fucking Black Plague and shit like that. All the shit that can get in your body and kill you, it's an enemy in Anatomy Park because all the shit gets loose and it's not supposed to. So basically, Morty has to get out of, he shrinks Morty down to go into Anatomy Park to check it out and make sure that it's running properly. And it's just really fun, really cool. And there's also a side story where Jerry's parents come over for Christmas because, like I said, it's a Christmas episode. And basically, his parents come over with this random guy. And it's like Jerry doesn't know this guy. And then it turns out that this guy is, his parents are kind of cucking a little bit. So this guy is, giving it to Jerry's mom and shit. And there's this funny dialogue when Jerry's dad says, "Oh, no, this guy is your mother's lover. I just watch them, sometimes on a chair, sometimes in a closet, almost always dressed as Superman." So it's just really fucking weird and odd. Fast forwarding to Anatomy Park, Morty is inside of the old guy, or the homeless guy, but the homeless guy dies because all this shit, all the bad shit, got out and it's infecting this guy's body and he's dead. So they're basically inside of a dead person. So Rick, he enlarges this man, the homeless guy who was wearing a Santa hat for some odd reason, into just makes him giant, throws him into the sky, and makes him giant, and whatever. And Morty's able to get out there alive and whatever. So it's just it's a pretty cool episode. I love how it's kind of Jurassic Park themed and all that shit. It's the same premise. All the dinosaurs got out. It's how would that not happen? So where is that episode? I'm gonna put this at watch sometimes. It's not one of my favorite episodes, but it's still good. Just like any Rick and Morty episode is. So where is it? Let's see. Not there, not there, not there, not there. Okay, yeah, right here. So that's Dr. Xenon Bloom. He runs the whole thing for Rick. I'm gonna put it on, watch sometimes. Don't watch that much. Yeah, I'll put it in don't watch that much. I don't watch it because I don't watch it that much. Just only when it comes on. So, next episode is season 1, episode 4. It's M. Night Shyamalan's. It's like a play on words for M. Night Shyamalan. He makes a lot of movies that have plot twists and turns the whole way. So basically these guys what do they do? These guys are scammers. They try and get information out of you and whatever. And they've been looking to try and make concentrated dark matter, which Rick knows how to make. And they try and, get it out of him for them to give for him to give them the recipe to make it. So they literally, kidnap him and Morty and Jerry, and they put them in this giant simulation. So, and it just goes crazy. But they didn't mean to put Jerry into the simulation. So Jerry's in a really shitty simulation. It doesn't run. It's not running properly and whatever. But Jerry's dumb. He doesn't even realize it. So it's just really funny. Like, he does this whole got apples thing, and it doesn't fucking work, and he's an idiot. Just comes up with the stupidest, crappy ideas. He thinks it's like it's too much closer to got milk. I don't know, but he's like a head of advertising. So he does that, and then Rick actually outsmarts all of the aliens that are trying to get the information out of him. So, but Morty actually ends up being part of the simulation, which he didn't know. So he was just like, you motherfuckers, like, you made my grandson, you turned him into a simulation, like, how dare you? So he basically gives them a combination for an explosive instead of concentrated dark matter. They make it and they put it in their ship, and their ship blows up, and that's it. Like, an end of episode. Like, Rick outsmarts, people once again. Like, Rick is the smartest person in the galaxy. So I do like this episode. I definitely don't watch it a lot, though. To me, it just doesn't grip me as much as it used to. Like, there's a lot of funny quotes in it, like the shitty simulation with Jerry. There's this mailman that goes, "My man," and I say that all the time. So, I mean, all of these episodes have some sort of quotable, like, quote, like, that's a lot of fun to say. So where is this episode? Right here. I'm gonna put it in barely watch. Yeah, because I barely watch this episode. Only when it's like, only when I'm like going through or I'm showing, a friend Rick and Morty or whatever. Okay, so season 1, episode 5, which is one of my favorites, Meeseeks and Destroy. So, in the beginning of the episode, like Rick and Morty are out on an adventure, and they come home, and Morty's just like, well, you never let me pick the adventure. Like, it's always what you want to do. And he's just like, yeah, well, if we picked what you wanted to do, what you would want to do, it would suck. So Morty's just like, all right, I bet you my adventure's better, even better than yours. And meanwhile, the whole family comes in with some sort of problem or issue. Like, Summer wants to be more popular at school. Beth wants to, be a more complete woman. Jerry needs to get this mason jar opened, and so Rick gives them this box. It's called a Meeseeks box, and you press a button, and a little dude comes out, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm Mr. Meeseeks. Look at me," and you tell it a task that you want it to do, and it'll do it, and then poof, it'll cease to exist. Like, any task, just not too hard, because Rick says they're not gods. So basically, the Meeseeks are trying to do stuff for the family, while Morty and Rick are out on Morty's adventure. So the adventure gets a little crazy at first, they're trying to get gold from this giant who lives in the clouds. It's almost like Jack and the Beanstalk. It pretty much is Jack and the Beanstalk, but one of the giant that notices Rick and Morty, because they're so much smaller, falls, hits his head, and dies. And then they go to they go to court, and they're trying to try Rick and Morty for attempted murder or murder. And then this, like, this MacGuffin comes in, and he's just like, yeah, well, they weren't read their rights, so they're able to leave. So they walk down the courthouse steps. Meanwhile, the courthouse steps are huge because it's for giants. So they have to, like, go down these steps, and meanwhile, the whole time Rick is just like, yo, this fucking adventure sucks, Morty. What are you doing, Morty? Like, and Morty's just like, you know what? You need to fucking lighten up and whatever. So he goes into so Morty's just like, I'm gonna go into the bathroom. If you're not having fun by the time I come out, then don't be here. So Morty goes into the bathroom, and then this jelly bean, he's called King Jelly Bean, comes in there, and he's acting all weird, right? And it gets to a point where, like, this jelly bean's being so creepy in the bathroom towards Morty that he's almost like trying to rape Morty. And it's so fucked up. This part of the episode is so fucked up, but it's fucking hilarious. I mean, just like a giant jelly bean trying to rape you in a bathroom. That's not, oh man. But so basically Morty is not happy about that. He like beats the shit out of the fucking, he kicks that fucking jelly bean's ass, man. He puts its head in the toilet and just cranks down on the lid. onto his head, and Mr. Jelly, like, King Jellybean's all fucked up, and he comes out of the bathroom, and Rick sees that, because King Jellybean comes out of the bathroom afterwards, and he's just like, oh shit, something bad happened. So basically, like, they pay this little slug to take them down the stairs so they can give, the townspeople their gold. So that's how their adventure ends. But so basically Beth, Jerry, and Summer are they have their Meeseeks and whatever, and basically Beth wants to be a more complete woman. The Meeseeks is able to do that. He disappears, and then Summer wants to be popular at school. Boom, the Meeseeks got her. He got her more popular at school, and he just poofs away. And then Jerry tries to get 2 strokes off of his golf game, and he's so mediocre, and he sucks so much at everything, and he's just an idiot that the Meeseeks can't even help him. So they stay around for too long. And when they get, when they stay around for too long, they get murderous and violent. All they want to do is die. That's it. They want to do their shit, what you tell them to do, and then go away and die. Like, that's their whole purpose. So basically, like, this Meeseeks calls out other Meeseeks, and then those Meeseeks call out other Meeseeks, and then there's just a bunch of Meeseeks that are frustrated because they can't help Jerry with his fucking golf swing. And then they try and kill Jerry because they're just like, oh, we can get all strokes off of his golf game when we kill him. So they just go, like, on a rampage and fucking, and then Beth ends up being the one that helps, Jerry, get strokes off of his golf game. So it's a really fun episode. I love the Meeseeks. They're really cool looking characters, and I love the way they talk. They're just stupid and, whimsical and whatever. So yeah, but Rick, because he admits to Morty that that it was a fun adventure. Morty has say over every 5 adventures Morty is in charge of. So that's pretty cool, and that that comes out in other episodes afterwards. So I'm gonna put the Mr. Meeseeks episode in favorite. Yeah, I'll put it in favorite. I love the Meeseeks episode. It's so much fun to watch. I always look forward to watching it when I binge watch the series because I do that a lot. So. But the next episode is one of my favorite episodes, so I'm gonna put it right in favorite right now. It's Rick Potion number 9, and it's very simple. So hold on, where is it? Where is Rick Potion number 9? Okay, let's see. No, not there. Rick Potion number 9. Oh, right here. Okay, so yeah, I'm definitely gonna put that in favorites. So basically, Morty, all he wants Rick to do is create a love potion for him, so he could give it to Jessica, his high school crush, who was who he has kind of like an obsession with or whatever, or is like obsessed over. So Rick makes him the potion even though he doesn't want to, and he's just like it's foolproof. Go nuts. So Morty, walks out of the room, and then Rick is just like, unless she has the flu. And that's like a big part of like why I love this episode, because Morty goes to the school dance, and and then he rubs the potion on her skin, and she falls in love with him instantly. But she's like, it's not like falling in love, kind of. It's more like she's just really horny, I guess, and like lifts her butt in the air like she wants to bang Morty and whatever. But the problem is that it's the flu season dance, which, like, why would you have a dance during flu season? Like, wouldn't you get the flu? Whatever. But the potion actually piggybacks on the flu, and everybody in the place falls in love with Morty. And then, everybody gets the flu all around the world, and they all fall in love with Morty, and they want to bang him and whatever. So he's, like, stuck in this weird, like, world where everybody just wants to fuck Morty. So it's like, he wanted something, but there's consequences to your actions. So basically, Rick comes up with this idea to make a stronger flu virus but he adds what's it called, praying mantis DNA to it. So basically, what happens with praying mantises is like the female and the male, they mate, and then the female cuts the head off of the male. So there's no male. That's just what they do. So like, not only do they want to have sex with Morty now, they also want to cut off his head afterwards. So Rick fucked up, and then Rick tries to make another even stronger virus, and it just epically fails. These, mantis creatures turn into like giant, Cronenberg monsters, like 1980s The Fly, and it's crazy looking to see. So basically, like, Rick pretty much fucks up the whole world, and like turns everybody into like these weird looking fucking creatures. But the virus, the flu virus, and the potion doesn't work on anybody that's related to you. So Summer, Jerry, Beth, and Rick, they don't turn into these monsters. So basically, like, Rick isn't able to solve the problem, so he's just like, Morty, we have to bail on this reality and set up shop in another reality. So then you see this like gruesome scene. Like, you think that Rick and Morty are back in the basement, hanging out, and Rick is, he's like asking Morty to help him with his ionic defibrillator and whatever. And then all of a sudden, he's turning the screw, and then the thing fucking blows up, and Rick and Morty are dead on the ground in like a pool of blood, as you see like right there. Like, that's their dead bodies, and then, that's the blood, and then that's when Rick and Morty portal into that universe, because they can only go into a universe where they have just died, so that way they can replace that other Rick and that other Morty. So that's pretty cool. So they basically like bail on that reality and set up shop in another one. So I mean, that obviously that they basically have to bury their dead selves in the fucking backyard, which is really fucked up. And then Rick, and then Jerry, Beth, and Summer are stuck in this world without Morty and without Rick, and they have to fight these Cronenberg monsters and shit, and then they have to use them as a source for food and whatever, and that plays a part in other episodes. But no, it's just a really fun episode. There's a lot of really fucked up things, a lot of like darker tones, and especially like seeing your dead self on the ground, like, and you have to bury yourself, like, that would fuck anybody up. I feel like that would like be cause, for you would definitely need some fucking therapy after that, for sure. So yeah, this show is definitely wrestling with evil, that's for sure. Top quality wrestling with evil shit. But yeah, that's the episode, and by and large, I really like Rick Potion number 9. It's a good episode. So let's move on to season 1, episode 7. It's Raising Gazorpazorp. So basically, this episode starts off with Rick and Morty, and they're in this what's it called? They're in this shop. It's like a pawn shop, and Morty, like, he's trying to get like Rick's trying to get something from this sleazy ass pawn shop dealer. And Morty's just like, oh, I like this doll, and it's like it looks like a stripper, but it's a robot, and it's like a robot sex doll. And he's just like, I really want this doll, Rick. Like, I never have anything to bring back from our adventures. And then Rick's just like, all right, I'll fucking buy you the doll. So he buys Morty the doll, the the fucking sex robot. So then the typical beginning credits roll, and then it heads into the house and into the morning, I guess, and you hear like a bunch of like a rocking from upstairs. So Morty is basically banging this doll, this robotic sex doll. Like, he keeps like having sex with it, but it turns out that it's not just a robotic doll. It's actually, there's a baby maker inside of it. So it's like an artificial insemination type, robot. So basically, he has sex with it, and then whatever creature that's inside of it, it mixes with his DNA, and he has a baby. So, basically, like, the robot gives birth, and like it's half like Gazorpian, which is why it's called Raising Gazorpazorp, and one half Morty. So he has to try and raise this child. So then Rick and Summer, they go to Gazorpazorp to try and, find out what the Gazorpians are and whatever. So they do that. And then, it turns out that it's a society controlled by women, because the male Gazorpians are so, like, brooding and violent and are all about war. The females are just like, no, I've had enough of this shit. We're just going to go somewhere else. And, and then we'll procreate by, giving them robots to fuck, whatever. So they go up into, the females, into the females part of the world, the planet rather. And basically what happens is, like, all these women are dressed in, like, elegant outfits and whatever. And, Gazorpians have four arms. So they're like, they're very different from humans. They have four arms. They have, two normal arms, and then they have a set of arms on their head, which is very odd. But basically they don't like men, and Rick is just like the most vulgar fucking, man probably ever. He burps and farts all the time. And then, like, they kind of sentence him to death or whatever. And then, Summer comes up with this genius idea that, the person who made my top, where I live, is a man. So if you like the top, you can't execute my dad for being a man, or my grandpa for being a man. So they let him go. And Rick comes back into the world, and Morty's trying to raise this half Gazorpian, half Morty baby, which is like, okay. And then, but this thing is so bent on domination and death that it, like, this natural instinct is like, okay, well, I want to destroy things, and kill people, and, go to war and essentially, like, kill everything in my path. So Morty tries to not let the baby go outside, but with that type of race, they grow up really, really quick, really fast. So it's just a fun episode. And then it goes into the Morty baby, the half alien, half Morty baby, getting, growing up and getting older, and, like, Morty's just like, okay, it's time for you to go and just, like, explore the world and whatever, be on your own. And then it ends up, like, this alien baby, like, it ends up writing a book about Morty, saying my terrible dad and whatever, because he was a shitty dad. I mean, obviously anybody that has a kid at 14, they're gonna be a shitty parent. So it's a decent episode. I really don't watch it at all. Like, so I'm gonna put it down here. It doesn't mean that it's bad or anything. It's just I don't really enjoy the episode. It's very simple. And I like a lot more complex episodes. Just like Rick Potion number 9 and the Scary Terry episode. Also, I'm a big horror fan, so obviously I'm gonna like a knockoff version of Freddy Krueger, right? So let's move on. Season 1, episode 8, is called Rick's D Minutes, and it's basically like Rick, he puts a chip into the the cable box, and now he can get cable from infinite realities. It's basically like interdimensional cable. It's exactly what it is. But and it shows like a whole bunch of shit, like a guy eating shit, for example, like just a planet where people eat shit and whatever, or like Jerry's famous in one of the TV shows and whatever from infinite timelines, and and like what's it called? I have them written down on note cards because I don't remember off the top of my head, because there's 2 different interdimensional cables. So it's this one and interdimensional cable 2. Has Ants in My Eyes Johnson. He's like a salesman that has ants in his eyes. He can't really see, and he can't really feel anything either. So it's like, it's bad salesman right there. And then like all these skits are done, improv. It's like it's all improv. It's just them fucking around in the studio, saying weird shit and making up weird situations. And then there's one called Ball Fondlers, where it's kind of like the A-Team, only with like what's his face, the guy who played Clubber Lang, Mr. T. But like it's like A-Team only has like weird creatures as the A-Team, and they're called the Ball Fondlers, which is like, that's fucking hilarious, man. It's like ball fondlers. Okay, cool. So yeah, so they're basically sitting down watching interdimensional cable, and once Jerry sees that there's a reality where he's famous, he wants to see if there's any other realities where he's famous. So Rick gives Jerry, Beth, and Summer goggles and whatever, so they could see their other selves, through the eyes of their other selves, so they could vicariously live that life, even though they're living a life that they're living in their reality. So, and then they established that they tell Summer that she was an unwanted pregnancy, and they didn't have to have her. They could have followed their dreams and whatever. And then just like Rick and Morty are just sitting down watching interdimensional cable, and just chilling out. And then you got the family fighting and whatever. And then it comes to a climax where Jerry is famous in one of the the other realities, but he still loves Beth, and he's all like drugged up on like heroin, and he's like half of his hair shaved and whatever, and he's all doped up, and he drives up to Beth's house, who was not a horse heart surgeon but a regular surgeon, and he's just like, Beth, I've loved you since high school. I'm so sorry that we got that abortion. I want to be with you. And Beth starts crying, and they embrace, and they make up and whatever after arguing for so long. So yeah. I like this episode just because of like the improv interdimensional cable. Like, it's really, really funny, but I don't like it as much as Interdimensional Cable 2, and I don't watch it as much. But I do enjoy it for what it is. So, it's this one. That's the dude eating shit. That's like, he literally has a piece of shit on his fork, and he's eating it. Like, that's so disgusting. Yeah, I watch it sometimes. Yeah, I'll put it in watch sometimes. But it's a fun episode. So let's move on to episode 9. Something Wicked This Way Comes. It's a play on this story where a shop owner comes out of nowhere, and he gives people cool stuff, but they're cursed. And it's like, yeah, you don't buy this stuff with money. Like, you buy it, or you don't receive this stuff with money. You don't pay for it, but you pay for it in other ways, like curses. Like, for example, you could buy something, and it's like, but you'll go blind in like 10 days, but you could see the future. It's like, that's fucked up, right? So basically, this guy comes into town, and Summer is working for him, and he's basically the devil. Like, he has these cursed items, and basically, like, these cursed items curse people, and he gives them out for free. So like, Rick naturally, he walks in, and he naturally is just like, well, like, it's messed up that you're doing this. So basically, what is gonna happen is, I'm just gonna out devil the devil. So that's literally what he does. He sets up he makes like a business on the side, that takes away the curses, so that way people just get cool shit. Like, there's these boxing gloves that make you fast, make you you can teleport. So that's pretty cool. It's like him being more of a scumbag than the devil, and it's just like, I mean, when you battle the devil and whatever and shit, and you can out devil the devil, like, that's crazy. And like, Rick is just, and he basically, like, he makes the devil like want to kill himself because, like, the devil is just, there's no point in him even existing if he can't give away these cursed items and people don't get cursed from them. If the curses are removed, what's the point? So it's a really good episode. I just don't watch it all that much. Let's see. Oh yeah. Also, and there's a side story that goes on between Jerry and Morty. Morty has a science fair coming up, and he wants his dad to help him with the science fair, which is usually what kids do with their dads. It's like typical stuff. So Jerry wants to help Morty build a model of the solar system and whatever, And then Jerry's like arguing with Morty, like, Pluto's a planet. And then Morty looks it up and he's just like, no, Dad, Pluto is not a planet. So then, Jerry even calls up NASA and it's just like, Pluto is a goddamn planet. And then like hangs up like in a fury just because like, he still believes Pluto's a planet and it's actually not. It's a celestial dwarf. But so basically like Plutonians come from Pluto to pick Jerry and Morty up in their spaceship, and they're just like, we want you to to be a spokesperson for Pluto being a planet and whatever. So they do that, and it's a fun episode. I really don't watch it that much. It's not one of my favorite episodes, but I do like the montage at the end where because the devil ends up redoing his business and reestablishing because Rick gets bored, obviously, because he already got his win. He already won, so he kind of like, he burns his business up and whatever. And the devil remodels. He calls it Needful Things, which is what the story, like, this episode is based on. It's called Needful Things. Basically, like, the devil, or, Lucifer, or whatever you want to call him, he sells stuff online now, and then he got bought out by Google, and basically, and Summer helped him out a lot, but he screwed Summer over. He's just like, your business? No, this is my business, bitch. I'm the devil, and whatever. So at the end credits, there's always like a little blurb, at the end of every Rick and Morty episode. At the end, like, Rick and Summer do steroids to get super fucking jacked, and they beat up people. Like, they beat up this bully who's bullying somebody, and like a guy that kicks a dog, and a Nazi. And then they go into Mr. Needful. That's what he calls himself instead of the devil, but he's actually the devil. He goes into a press conference, or like Apple does when they make a new iPhone or whatever, like to show off their new product. And that's what he does, but Rick and Summer come in super jacked, and they just kick the shit out of the devil, and like it plays to like the music in the background is X Gonna Give It To You, which I find fucking hilarious. Like, anytime X Gonna Give It To You is in a show, like, I kind of laugh out loud because like I grew up with that song. All right, I mean. I'm not that old, but I grew up with DMX. I fuck with him. So, yeah, I'll put this episode at... I really don't watch this episode at all. Yeah, I'm going to put it at don't watch at all. It's not my favorite episode. To me, it kind of drags on. It doesn't have that, it has that, typical Rick style of doing things where he tries to outdo everybody else, like, tries to, out-dick a dick, and, that's just what Rick does. But anyways, yeah, so I'm going to put that at don't watch at all because, like I said, I don't watch it that much. So moving on, is close Rick counters of the Rick kind. So basically there's infinite versions of everybody, like infinite versions of Rick and Morty and Summer and Beth and Jerry. And like another Rick is killing Ricks, going into different dimensions and just killing Ricks just for the fun of it. And the Rick that we know, that we watch, gets framed for it. So basically what happens is, like, there's this thing called the Citadel of Ricks, where all the Ricks create this government where, and like, it's so counterproductive of who they are. They hate the government, so they form a government. It's like, okay, but so basically, like, they go and they literally take Rick, and they take him hostage, and they're just like, well, I need my Morty and whatever. So Rick and Morty, they take them to the Citadel, and they basically, like, they try Rick for his supposed crimes when another Rick did it, and they hacked it. The other Rick even hacked his portal gun and stuff like that. So his portal gun history is like, is full of the places that, the other Ricks died at. The other dimensions where, those Ricks were killed. So basically, Rick gets framed, and then and then he goes out, or he gets Morty, and then he goes out and tries to find who the real murderer is. So it's like a murder mystery, like all in one episode. So yeah. So basically, what happens is like the Rick is like actually a robot, and he's being controlled by something else, and it's a Morty. A Morty is controlling that Rick. The Rick doesn't exist. He's just a robot. And the people that are fans of the show call him Evil Morty because, you know, he's evil. Basically, like, and in order to camouflage, you know, him and the Rick, and like, you know, like, he basically has like this giant wall of naked Mortys like being stabbed repeatedly, because I guess when Mortys are in pain, it's like it's like an even bigger shield for Rick. So it's an interesting episode. It's not one of my favorites, but it does introduce Evil Morty, so I have to give it that. I do like Evil Morty as a character. He'll come into, you know, another episode that I'm gonna talk about later on. But basically, I'm gonna put close Rick counters of the Rick kind at let's see. I barely watch this episode anymore. I don't watch a lot of the first season or the second season much anymore, but it doesn't mean I don't love it. Yeah, so I put it at barely watch. I do watch it sometimes when I want like a little nostalgia here and there, or when I'm watching through the season. But you know, yeah, I'll usually just skip it if I want to watch, you know, the episodes that I really really like. So let's move on to season 1, episode 11. This one is called Ricksky Business, or Rixy Business. And basically, what happens in this episode is Jerry and Beth, they go to, they're going to like a vacation, and it's like Titanic themed. You know the movie The Titanic, that long ass movie, Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet and whatever. So yeah, they go into a reenactment of the Titanic, which is just like, why would you want to go on vacation for that? Like, you know, go on a beach or something like that. Hang out, have fun, like drink Mai Tais at the fucking pool, and I don't know, fucking, you know, bang it out a million times in the hotel room. Like, that's a vacation, man. But they leave and go on vacation, and they tell Rick, make sure, like, you know, nothing gets broken, or else it's your ass, or else, you know, and if shit gets broken, you're not allowed to go on adventures with Morty anymore. So I mean, so they leave and they go on this Titanic adventure, and that shit that goes south real quick. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but basically Rick, he had like some laser eels oxidizing in the garage where he, you know, he makes his gadgets and shit, and they burn a hole basically through the garage door. So it's like, okay, they kind of fucked up already. So Summer's just like, oh no, I'm gonna throw a party now. And then Rick's just like, no, bitch, you ain't throwing a party because I'm throwing a party. So basically, like, they just throw this giant party. All of Rick's friends, you know, come over. All of the Summer's friends from school come over and shit. And Rick's friend Bird Person, who, you know, you get to really love and you get to meet, you know, throughout the series in different types of ways. You know, he invites his friend called Squanchy over. He's a cat, and he uses the word squanch a lot, and it's like, okay, all right, it's cool, squanch. So, yeah, so they have a party, and then this guy comes through, busting through the door. His name is Aberdolf Linkler, and he's like half Abraham Lincoln, half Adolf Hitler, and he's just a weird, awkward dude. So basically, yeah, they throw this party, and then the house gets so fucked up, because people don't care about your house when they're partying. They don't really give a shit. They break shit, whatever. People get drunk, people fall, people break shit. I've had parties at my house where, you know, shit has gotten broken or whatever. It happens. You know, that's why you don't throw parties. That's why I don't throw parties no more. So, basically what happens is, some shit goes down, where, you know, the house ends up being transformed into a different reality, which is like, you know, that's definitely a big no-no. Like, they destroyed the house, but also, like, it's completely moved into a different reality. So I like this episode. It sets up the tone for like the more lighthearted episodes of the show. Um, but it also but like as soon as Morty and Summer's mom and dad come home, Beth and Jerry, from their Titanic vacation, where the vacation kind of sucked anyways, and like there was this crazy maid there that tried to like rape Jerry and whatever. It was just really fucked up. And the vacation, the Titanic didn't even sink anyways, so it's like, what's the point? So they come back from the vacation and they look and they see the house is all fucked up, but Rick has this device that freezes time. So basically, they get out of a shitty situation by freezing time. So, and that's the last episode of the first season. That's episode 11. I enjoy the episode. I haven't watched it in a while, but I should really watch it again. So I'm gonna put it under don't watch that much. Yeah, I'm gonna put it under don't watch that much because I really don't. And these tier lists are very simple. I didn't want to like put like, oh, shitty episodes, because really, like I said, there are no shitty episodes of Rick and Morty. So let's move on to season 2. Season 2 takes place literally where season 1, where season 1 ends. Like everything's frozen in time, and it's frozen for like a good couple months. And Jerry and Beth are just standing there in the driveway, all frozen and stuff. And but this time dude, he looks like a giant meatball, or like a testicle or whatever, if you will. He comes in and he's just like, yo, you guys fucked up your time, because like when they unfreeze time, shit got all weird, and like it was making separate versions of their reality, putting them into chunks, and then there was 4 realities or 2 realities or whatever. And they basically like fucked up their time, just in general. So this meatball looking guy comes in and he's just like, yo, what the fuck? Your time's all messed up. He gives them a collar to put their time back together. And he's just like, you're coming with me. You're going to time prison because you can't do that. And then fucking Rick beats the shit out of him and whatever. And then Rick basically fights with himself, because he doesn't trust himself. And I feel like that speaks for Rick's character. And then they try to put the collars back on, but some of them don't work. So basically, like Rick, he has to fix the broken collars and whatever, because literally time is ripping apart. Like the reality is ceasing to exist. So he's trying to put together these collars and whatever, and it's not working. Because one of Morty's is broken. And then their time completely gets destroyed, and there's nothing but cats floating in an empty space, which is just like, why just cats, I love cats, but, whatever. And basically, what happens is Rick ends up saving Morty's life, and they end up, putting their time back together. But meanwhile, Beth and Jerry, they give Beth and Jerry some money because they're not allowed to touch them or else the time will completely fracture. So, they give him some money to go out and get some ice cream, and they get some ice cream, but like, Jerry gets in an accident, hits a deer, and Beth is a horse heart surgeon, so she basically tries to bring the deer back to life, and she isn't able to do it. She takes it to the vet, yada yada, and then Rick doesn't, a really sweet thing for Beth, and gets a car and whatever, and like the ice cream truck, and it's really an ice cream truck, but it's like, he kind of pretends it's like a vehicle for transporting animals or whatever. But Beth is able to actually save the deer and whatever, and they come home and everything's fine. So basically, like, the shit that happened, freezing time, it had consequences, but they were able to fix it in one episode. That's usually how Rick and Morty episodes work. So I like the episode. It's a lot of fun. Haven't seen it in a while, though. I rewatched some of the episodes just to get familiar with them again. Because, some of these episodes have been out for almost 10 years. So, But this episode, I'm gonna put it in. Barely watch. Actually, probably don't watch at all, because I don't prefer this episode all that much. To me, it's kind of like a jumbled up mess, you know. Because there's so many like Ricks talking at once, and it's just like, whatever. Like I usually just skip it. But yeah, so that's that. And let's go to season 2, episode 2. So Morty Night Run. It's like play on words. It's like a midnight run. Haha. Like that old TV show, or I think it was a movie or something. Basically, Rick is trying to teach Morty how to drive, and Jerry is in the back of the car, but they have to go on an adventure. Or no, Rick gets a call from a dude that buys guns from Rick, so he has to drop Jerry off at a daycare for all Jerry's, just an all Jerry daycare. It's called Jerry Jamboree, I think, or some shit like that. So they leave Jerry at the daycare. Jerry tries to escape the daycare, all that shit, because he's like, fuck Rick, like, why would he do this to me? Like, I'm Jerry's dad, or I'm Morty's dad, and whatever. And then Jerry goes to, Krombopolis Michael, who I love as a character. He's so cool and whatever. And he's like, oh, here I go killing again, which is why I say that all the time on stream. When I'm like killing a zombie or whatever, I'm just like, oh, here I go killing again. It's like, it's such a quotable episode. But anyways, Krombopolis Michael and Rick meet. He gives him the gun so he can go assassinate people, because that's what Krombopolis Michael does. He assassinates people. He kills people for a living. Rick and Morty, they do that, and then they come back, and basically, Rick and Morty go to this place called Blips and Shits, and it's like a giant arcade. It's like an interdimensional, it's like an interstellar arcade, and it has this game called Roy, and basically you live a whole life in the game, and you rack up points, and how successful you lived your life is like how many points you get and whatever. So it's like it's a pretty fun episode. You basically get to see Roy, like Morty put on a Roy helmet, but it's really it's a video game, but it's not really a video game. That'd be interesting, like a pretty interesting concept to actually have as a video game. I wish there was actually one like that. But but Morty is like, he's trying to save this being from Krombopolis Michael, and Krombopolis Michael actually gives Morty a card. He's just like, oh, if you need anybody killed, small children, babies, cats, dogs, I do it, you name it, I just love killing. So he basically, so Morty uses the calling card, but he takes Rick's ship while Rick is playing Roy, and he flies to Krombopolis Michael, but it actually squishes Krombopolis Michael while he's trying to, assassinate this gaseous being. So he actually kills Krombopolis Michael, the famous assassin. So he basically he tries to free this thing. It's like a gas that can create anything. And then Rick shows up, and he's just like, "What the fuck, man? You stole my car and whatever." And Rick's and Morty's trying to say, we got to free this thing. So they try and free it and escape. But meanwhile, like, Morty causes like so many deaths just to save one life. And Rick calls the gaseous being a fart. So it's pretty funny. Because Rick farts and burps a lot. So, but that's pretty much the episode. And and then the fart ends up wanting to destroy humanity, because he's just like, well, humanity sucks, so blah blah blah. So yeah, I like the episode. I really don't watch it that much. So I'm going to put it. Where is the episode? Where is that episode? Right here. So that's Rick and Morty, and that's fart in the middle of them. I'm gonna put barely watch. I probably don't watch that much. I do like the episode, but I just really don't watch it that much. So let's move on to season 2, episode 3. I love this episode. It's Auto-Erotic Assimilation. So basically, what's it called? So basically, Rick and Morty and Summer are out, going on an adventure and whatever, and there's this beacon that calls, it's like a distress beacon, and he goes there usually just to loot and steal shit and whatever. But it turns out that this entity had taken over the ship, and whatever where the distress signal came from, and it turns out to be an old girlfriend of his, Unity, and she's like, she can assimilate creatures. She can like literally make herself a part of that creature, or control the creature's mind or whatever. And like, she unifies basically like planets and whatever for, to make it more peaceful and whatever. So Rick dated this, hive mind species, with the power of like, that has the power of, assimilating anything. And he has a lot of fun with that. And, Summer's trying to be a buzzkill and be like, no, like this isn't right for her to take over the minds of all these people, like trying to be a humanitarian, but it ends up screwing things over because she starts a race war because the planet that she took over was really racist, and like it's all over nipple size too, or nipple shape. Like it's funny because like one race has like a target shaped nipple, and like another race has like a pointy cone nipple. And it's like they're feuding just because their nipples are different. And that's so ridiculous. And that's what we do in real life. We cause race wars just because somebody looks different from us. And it's fucked up. It's a reality. I mean, it's a TV show, but it has a lot of reality aspects in it, which, that's something that I really, really enjoy. That's a lot of fun to me. Like when something is, reality based off of something that happens in real life, like it's always a lot better. So basically like Rick is banging Unity and like all the women that, Unity took over, in the hive mind or whatever. He's having his fun. And then Unity realizes like, Rick's actually a really bad person and he's able to make me do this stuff. And Rick hasn't changed at all, and basically like, Rick tells Summer and Morty to go home, like, cause he's having his fun, banging all these women. And just having a good old time, and like Unity can make anything happen. Like Unity creates a TV show for him, assimilates a giraffe. So yeah, Rick's a bad person, and she knows that, and she ends up ditching Rick and whatever. And then Rick, he was having so much fun, and I guess he maybe cared for Unity a lot. Rick comes home after, Unity ditches him and whatever, and he like, it's like a really dark moment. And he's sitting in his garage, and he's getting fucked up and drinking like different chemicals and whatever. And then he puts his head in between these two lasers that are meant to, kill you. And he tries to commit suicide, but he gets so drunk that, he passes out. But right before the lasers were gonna, the laser was gonna like, literally cut his head off or, explode his head. So it's like the man tries to kill himself. He's like, the smartest man in the universe, but, I guess he loved Unity and whatever, and he was sad, so he tried to off himself. And it's like a very real moment. Shit like that happens all the time. Just because somebody doesn't love you, it doesn't mean you should try and kill yourself. So it's a very real feelsy moment in Rick and Morty, and you have a lot of those in Rick and Morty as time goes on. And hopefully there's even more. There was actually one recently, the last episode of the 4th season. I'm not going to say anything about it now, but there's a feelsy moment. I'm going to talk about it in a little bit. But yeah, so I really like Auto-Erotic Assimilation. It's hilarious. It's a funny episode. He just makes Unity do like the weirdest shit in the world. So Unity and Rick, I'm going to put this episode in good, baby, because it is a really good fucking episode. So let's move on. Oh, one of my favorite episodes, Total Recall. It's obviously a spoof on Total Recall. This is season 2, episode 4, Total Recall. Basically, something happens, and Rick probably he brings in like an alien egg that hatches and turns into this demon or this alien creature. But this alien creature, it multiplies and tries to take over planets, but it goes into your mind through memories, and it's able to, make you flash back to a moment where something, where like, it tries to make you remember about a person that doesn't exist, and by flashing back, that entity actually comes into reality, but it's really an alien. So Rick locks down the house and whatever, and he's just like, yo, like, the number is 6. Like, there's 6 people in this family, and then there's like this whimsical character, Mr. Poopy Butthole, who's like a very kind, hearted, but his name is Mr. Poopy Butthole, and it's funny, it's hilarious, like, poop jokes. But yeah, so basically, these wacky zany characters are like, all inside of the Smith house, and basically, like, they can't tell who's real because, like, they basically have the memory of them incepted in their mind, and it's like hard to, it's like Frankenstein's monster. You got like just these crazy wacky characters. Mrs. Refrigerator, Hammer Eye, who's like a samurai that has ham all over him. It's like, what? But yeah, you have these like crazy wacky characters, and Rick is trying to figure out who's real, and he sees this number 6, and he's just like, there's only supposed to be 6 people here, and then the house fills up into like a Where's Waldo situation. So Rick and Morty, and they all fight, to try and like have Rick get them out of the house, put the blast shields down, so that way the species can overrun the Earth and whatever. It's kind of like a Invasion of the Body Snatchers type deal, but Morty and Rick, they go into the garage, and they realize that these aliens, you could tell that it's an alien because aliens, they only incept good memories into your brain, not bad ones. So whoever you had bad memories with isn't an alien. So that's how they're able to tell, like, what's an alien, what's not, type deal and whatever. And they kill all the aliens. It's like a bloody, awesome fucking mess, and it's crazy. Yeah. I mean, I love this episode. I think it's one of the best episodes ever created. It's so genius. It's like, Total Recall is one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, Arnold Schwarzenegger's a fucking badass in that movie. So, yeah, I really love that episode. I really enjoy it. And then it ends with Beth mistaking Mr. Poopy Butthole as an alien, so she shoots Mr. Poopy Butthole, but he bleeds red blood. So, they take him to the hospital. Mr. Poopy Butthole obviously doesn't want to speak to Beth anymore at that point, because it's just like, yo, this bitch chopped me, like, whatever. But, it's a fun episode. It really is. This show in a whole is just amazing. This show is amazing, and I'm so glad that I'm able to do this tier list for you guys. So, let's move on to season 2, episode 5. Get Schwifty. I'm gonna try and make this video not too long. I'm probably gonna keep it at maybe like 2 hours. So I'm about close to halfway done. So yeah, it's gonna get easier and easier. It's not gonna be as long, so I'm wasting time right now. But let's move on. It's season 2, episode 5. Get Schwifty. So basically these giant heads come down to Earth from the sky. And they create a bunch of, natural disasters that are going to destroy Earth. And basically what they want the planet to do is make a hit song. It's like an American Idol type deal, but the planet that doesn't make a good song, that they approve of, that they don't approve of, it gets literally like lasered into like nothing, gets completely destroyed. And these heads, these floating heads in the sky, like I said, it's like American Idol. So Rick makes this song Get Schwifty, and the president's rocking out and whatever. But there's a second and the heads approve, so they don't blow up Earth or disintegrate it. So basically Rick is supposed to make another song, and there's a bunch of trials and tribulations there. Basically Rick, he what does he do? They hire Ice-T to come into the studio and help them make a song. which like Ice-T, obviously you know him. He's a rapper. He's also in what's it called? Not NCIS. Like some crime drama show, a Law and Order. Yeah, he's in Law and Order. But you know, Ice-T comes in and like, you know, Rick's fucking around and whatever. And basically Rick is like, you know, trying to make this song. Morty bails because he's like done with Rick's shit. And then, you know, Morty gets, you know, he steals Rick's portal gun, and he goes into a different dimension, and almost dies. Bird person saves him, with some lint that was under the carpet because he doesn't know what humans eat. But so Morty bails on Rick, and then Morty comes back, and they make another song. And basically, yeah, that's the episode. I don't really watch this episode too much, but Get Schwifty is a fucking jam for real. I really like this episode, but like I said, I don't watch it too much. So I'm gonna put it a little bit higher, even though I don't watch it that much. I should watch it more. Watch sometimes, yeah. Watch sometimes is good enough for that episode. To me, it just kind of drags on a little bit, you know, like, you know, there's not enough action-y stuff going on. Like, I like the more, you know, action-y type episodes, I guess. So let's move on to season 2, episode 6, The Ricks Must Be Crazy. Now, basically, Rick's car, he made it out of a bunch of, you know, parts in the garage, and it's like a spaceship, like a UFO type deal. So the battery is going dead, and basically what the battery is, it's a smaller world that's powered by tinier people, in order to keep the vehicle running. So like he made a whole entire civilization inside of a battery, you know, to fuel his car. So he goes inside the battery and he's just like, yo, what's up? And you know, that society has a scientist like Rick who did the same thing, and you know, is able to run the, you know, the planet with a battery or whatever. So it's funny, you know, because Rick is a dick, you know, and like he gets it back, you know, by this guy named Zeep. And, you know, he was just as smart as Rick is, and they have just a giant dick measuring contest and whatever, and they're trying to kill each other. And then they end up going into another reality of Zeep's creation, and another scientist is doing the same thing. So they end up getting trapped in that reality or you know, battery, because, you know, the scientist ends up killing himself and just like, you know, fucking Allah Akbars himself and fucking you know, just you know, leaves Rick and Zeep and Morty in that battery, so they can't come out, so they have to find a way out. So I like this episode. It's not exactly the best episode. Also, like, Summer's left behind, so Rick and Morty can go into the battery, and basically the car is like killing people, like, because Rick tells the car like keep Summer safe at all costs, and the you know, the car basically goes autopilot, and like kills a bunch of people and whatever. And then, you know, it's an episode. It's not my favorite. I really don't watch it all that much, but I mean, like I said, every episode of Rick and Morty is good. So let's move on to season 2, episode 7. Big Trouble in Little Sanchez. It's like a play on Big Trouble in Little China. All the titles of the episodes are always, you know, like based off of something. I like how this show is like one giant spoof. So, Big Trouble in Little Sanchez, basically like Morty and Summer, they have this coach called Coach Ferratu. He's like a vampire, and Rick confirms that like there's actually vampires in real life and whatever. So Coach Ferratu like drained the blood of a woman and whatever in the school, and like the school shut down or whatever, or something happened. And they want Rick to, you know, turn himself little so he can or turn himself into a high school student so he can go into the high school and hunt down, you know, the coach or whoever did it. they don't. I don't think they knew who actually like was the vampire or whatever. But they kill the vampire. Rick turns himself into Tiny Rick. He calls himself, and basically like Tiny Rick is just like trying to do a bunch of hijinks and whatever, and basically be a high schooler and does typical high school shit. Summer ends up screwing him over, and he gets very emotional like high schoolers do. And Tiny Rick throws a party at the house, and they're having fun and whatever. But Rick is just like such a typical high schooler and whatever, that he doesn't know what's going on or whatever. He's not his typical self. But also on the flip side, Jerry and Beth, Rick takes them to like marriage counseling to sort out their differences in their marriage. He takes them to like an alien marriage counselor who's supposed to be the best in the galaxy. And Jerry and Beth end up somehow destroying the whole place, like, because they have they make like monstrous clones of the people to see how they coexist and whatever, and their relationship is very codependent. So like their demons work together in order to get out of the area that they're kept in when the clones are created. So they end up like literally destroying the marriage counseling place. Like their marriage is that bad. So I mean, it's a decent episode. I haven't seen it in a while. Like I said, I haven't really watched the first and second season all that much anymore, at least. I really like the third and fourth season, though. But I'll talk about that in a little bit. So I'll give this episode, I'll put this a little up a little higher. Because I really do enjoy this episode. It's a lot of fun. Watch sometimes. I feel like that's the tier that it should be at. So, let's go. Big Trouble in Little Sanchez is done. Oh, Season 2, Episode 8, Interdimensional Cable 2. I fucking love Interdimensional Cable 2. I'm actually going to put it right up here right away. So, yeah, Interdimensional Cable 2 is a really fucking good episode. It's literally like Rick's D Minutes, but, it's just another interdimensional cable thing. And basically, there's mutant bacteria in a jar that Jerry drank from, and he's all fucked up and whatever. He's basically poisoned, so they have to take him to an alien hospital. Rick and Morty and Summer and Beth are just sitting down, chilling, watching Interdimensional Cable in the waiting room while they're waiting for Jerry to get better. But the thing that happened was that the doctors cured him of whatever it was that of the mutant bacteria shit, but they want to use his penis. They want to cut off his penis and use it for an alien's heart, and the alien is said to be the most impactful leader, influencer in the world. He's in the hospital like dying or whatever. That's why they need a new heart for what's his face, for the influencer. He's called Shrimply Pibbles. They want to cut off his penis and put it in his heart. And obviously, me being a man, I could, resonate with that, because I don't want anybody cutting off my dick and, putting it in some alien's heart. I need that. I'm a man, I want to have babies one day or whatever. So, I mean, and obviously, your penis is very, sacred to you when you're a man. But no, it's like he gets taken to the hospital for to get help, and they're trying to cut off his dick and put it in an alien's heart, and I just find that really, really, really fucked up. So that's why I like this episode so much, but also the interdimensional cable side too. I really love the skits that go on. But basically, Jerry backs out of giving his dick to the alien for his heart and whatever, and they end up getting pissed off at him, just like every episode ends, with everybody usually getting pissed off at Jerry because he's an asshole and he's stupid and whatever, he's a dumbass. So I love the Interdimensional Cable 2 skits too. You got the Eye Hole Man versus Car. My favorite is the Personal Space Show. I love the Personal Space Show. It's so funny, and it's all improv too. It's just everybody just joking around, just having fun, recording some random shit. So it's a lot of fun to watch. So yeah, Interdimensional Cable 2 is one of my favorites. So I'm gonna try and go by a little bit faster, because I'm a little more familiar with the season 3 and 4. Like, I could literally tell you everything. I won't even have to look at these cards. But yeah. So let's move on. Yeah, Interdimensional Cable 2 is probably one of my favorite episodes of all time. I watched that shit a lot. I love that fucking episode. But yeah, season 2, episode 9, Look Who's Purging Now. This is not an episode that I watch very often, but when I do, I have a lot of fun watching it. Basically, it's just Rick and Morty on a planet that, it's like the movie The Purge. They have one night a year where they just fucking kill each other, in order to, fucking population control or whatever. Yeah, and basically, Rick and Morty, they end up being a part of the purge, not on purpose, but it's a typical purge thing. It's cool. And then they Summer, bring ships off, sends coordinates to the purge planet, and they get these awesome fucking badass, like, Tony Stark, Iron Man looking suits, and they just fucking kill everybody. It's like a giant blood fest. I love this. I love this episode, but I don't really watch it that much. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what happens, and then they go back and whatever, go back home. It's like, it's simple. It's a simple episode, but it's like, it's pretty gory at the same time. So I'm gonna put this in the good category. I really like this episode. But like I said, I don't really watch it all that much. I don't really watch the first 2 seasons all that much anymore, like I said. So let's move on. Season 2, episode 10, The Wedding Squatchers. Now, this episode is very, very important. Basically, Bird Person, who's Rick's, best friend, he met Tammy at Rick's party, what's it called? In the season finale of the first season. So he met Tammy, who was like a high school student with in Summer's grade, I think, or maybe or whatever, just like Summer's friend in general. So they're getting married, and Rick and the family are invited to the wedding, and Rick doesn't want to go, but then Jerry makes a stupid mistake, and a giant meatball sends him to the wedding anyway. So Rick is just like, fuck, we have to go to this wedding, and he hates weddings for some reason. They're getting married, and it's a typical, wedding celebration, whatever. But then Tammy reveals that she's, because Rick and the intergalactic government does not get along at all. So Tammy reveals herself as like a double agent for the Federation, and murders pretty much everybody at the wedding. Legitimately everybody. She kills Bird Person too, and it's like, that to me, when I first saw that, I was like, shit, I really liked him. Like, we killed Bird Person, what the fuck? And then basically, Rick's made now. Like, he's, they know where he lives on Earth, and then basically the Federation takes over Earth. So now it's part of the Intergalactic Federation. So, and they're looking for Rick, because, they want his portal formula. They want to be able to, create interdimensional travel. But you don't know that until the season 3, premiere debut. But, Tammy kills everybody and whatever. And then, so Rick and Morty, Jerry and Summer and Beth have to go look for another version of Earth, because their version of Earth is taken over by the Galactic Federation. So they go to a bunch of different planets. There's one planet that everything's made of corn, and they can't inhabit it for some reason. I don't know what they have against corn. And then there's this one planet where the sun yells all the time. It's like really loud. It yells really loud. Literally, a sun yelling. And I'm not talking about like your sun. I'm talking about the sun in the sky. It's like a giant sun, and it's yelling. And the days on the planet are like 48 hours long. So it's like, imagine dealing with a planet that has a sun that's literally yelling at the top of its lungs for 24 hours. It's like, that's got to be insanely annoying. And then they finally inhabit this planet that's really small and whatever. And then, like, Jerry wants to, turn, Rick into the government and whatever because they're looking for him and they don't want to live on this tiny planet anymore. And Rick hears that and he ends up turning himself into the government. Whatever. So the season 2 ends on Rick getting locked up in the intergalactic prison. So, and it ends on a giant cliffhanger. This episode is really, really good. So I'm gonna put it in the good category for sure. I really like this episode. But yeah, no, it's fucked up that Jerry would even say that he wanted to turn Rick into the government, because like that's supposed to be your family. You don't fuck with family like that. That's fucked up. But anyways, yeah, that's the end of season 2. So season 3 episode 1 is the Rick Shank Redemption, which is a play on the Shawshank Redemption. The Morgan Freeman movie. Where this guy, escapes prison, and that's literally what Rick does. But he escapes prison. He's in a brainalyzer, and also actually, hold on. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, Rick turns himself into the government, whatever, and in the last season, and then now he's in a brainalyzer, and they're trying to get information out of him, and and basically interrogating him on what the the portal formula is. And he's he basically screws over the guy interrogating him, and then he ends up taking over the brainalyzer and brainalyzes himself into one of the insects, one of the Gromphlomites, who is are the leaders of the of the galactic government. So basically he becomes one of them, and then some Ricks invade the prison where he's being held to assassinate him because they don't want him to talk. So Rick ends up transferring his conscious into one of the Ricks, and then basically what he does is his whole plan in the first place was to get locked up on purpose so he could take out the intergalactic government and the Citadel of Ricks, which he doesn't like either. He doesn't like government. So he actually succeeds in that. He's able to, he's able to, what's it called? Transport the Citadel of Ricks inside of an intergalactic prison, where all the big guys are, held, and he's able to, literally collapse the intergalactic government's currency, collapse their whole economy, and he completely destroys the Citadel of Ricks. He gets what he wants, and then he comes home, and Jerry, Beth misses him, but Jerry was holding down the fort, being the breadwinner for the family, and Jerry's just you got to choose him or me, and she chooses Rick, and now they're getting a divorce. So season 3 is all about Beth and Jerry getting a divorce and whatever. So it pretty much sets the tone for it. I really love this episode. I remember when it first came out on April Fool's Day. Nonetheless, this is a really good episode. It's a lot of fun to watch. So I'm gonna put it in good. I think it's a great episode. So yeah, that's how season 3 starts off. And then season 3 episode 2 is Rick Mancing the Stone, which is one of my favorite episodes. It's basically Jerry's. So yeah, I'm gonna put this. I'm gonna put Rick Mancing the Stone in the favorite category because I love this episode. I watch it all the time. So yeah, basically Jerry's moving out. In this episode, Beth and Jerry are getting a divorce and whatever. So he's moving out into a really shitty apartment. And which, I mean, you expect Jerry to live in a shitty place, right? Because he's the character that gets shit on the most in this show. So basically, Morty, Summer, and Rick go on an adventure to a post-apocalyptic version of Earth, which it has a very Mad Max theme to it. And he's trying to he's trying to cop a green rock. It's called Isotope 322, I think. It's like really powerful. It's able to, like power stuff that and Rick can sell it for a high price. It's very valuable. It's highly reactive. But like he notices that, and he's basically like when it starts out, him, Morty, and Summer are getting chased by like these Mad Maxy looking dudes, and Summer like she kills one of them, and he kind of looks like Immortan Joe from the newer Mad Max movie. And so they're in this post-apocalyptic version of Earth, and Summer and Morty's parents are just getting a divorce, trying to get a divorce, and Rick sees a green rock there that's giant, so he decides to hang out at the place a little bit so he can get his hands on the giant version of that little speck of isotope 322, because it's really valuable for his research and work. And so he basically Summer goes off with people named Deathstalkers and whatever, and hunts down people, the people from the before times, before everything turned to shit. And he injects Morty with some muscle memory fluid into his arm, and it makes his arm giant so he can fight in the blood dome and distract people so he can get his hands on the green rock. So he gets his hands on the green rock, and they find out, and then Rick goes home, and Morty and Summer are left in the post-apocalyptic version of Earth because they want to be, and they want to take out their stress and frustration and anger from the divorce out on people from the post-apocalyptic version of Earth. So Morty's killing people, and Summer's trying to be one of them, and and then Morty's hand or arm he calls it Armathy, and it can talk to him and whatever, and it wants to avenge its family's death. So basically Morty is being led by this hand, by this arm, because of the muscle memory, and he's taken to this castle. It's like kind of King Joffrey's castle from Game of Thrones. He wants to kill King Joffrey, the imitation of King Joffrey. He doesn't, the arm doesn't succeed, but it goes away after its purpose is fulfilled. So it's just really funny. I really, really like this episode. It's a lot of fun. It's really bloody, really gory. And then Rick introduces the post-apocalyptic version of Earth with electricity with the isotope. So it's like it went from post-apocalyptic to having comforts of regular society, and it basically it's just well, you have all this technology, so now you're kind of distracted from all this real life stuff, and you're not as savage as you once were or whatever. And it just it kind of makes a point, is technology bad? Is TV bad? Who knows? But yeah, I love this episode. It's a lot of fun to watch. I watch it all the time. I seriously love this episode. It's definitely one of my favorites. So let's move on. All right, the moment you guys have all been waiting for. Season 3, episode 3, Pickle Rick. I fucking love this episode. So basically, Rick turns himself into a literal pickle, like an actual pickle, in order to get out of family counseling. And he's turning himself into a pickle to get out of a pickle. And he ends up getting into another pickle when, because there's a serum, a syringe full of anti-pickle serum that he plans on and having fall from a thing to inject him to turn him back to normal. Because, after the family leaves for family therapy and everything. And I'm just going to say this right now. It's definitely in the favorite category. That's for sure. I love this fucking episode. But he turns himself into a pickle. And then, he has to go through a lot of shit in order to, become human again. He gets knocked off his desk by a cat. And then he goes into the sewer grate. And then, he ends up, killing a bunch of cockroaches so he can get a bunch of cockroach parts. So he can, saw through the grates and whatever with the cockroach parts, and then he gets some rat parts, and then he gets, he has rat parts infused onto the pickle. So it's just like he's just like this giant, bloody, gory rat pickle dude now, and then he tries to escape through a toilet, and it leads him to like this prison, this international prison, and the guards are trying to kill him or whatever, and he pretty much like it's like from Die Hard. It's like he's just John Wicking and Die Harding these people, these armed guards and shit like that have guns, and he's just a pickle. So it's a really good episode. And then he eventually goes back, and they're still in therapy, and he actually has to go to therapy to ask Beth for the anti-pickle serum so he can come back to, life, essentially. And it's just a fun episode. It's a really, really good episode, too. Like, he gets brutal with, like, the kills and whatever. He creates a laser out of, like, a bunch of stuff. He kills a bunch of guards with a bunch of pencils and shit like that. It's awesome. It reminds me of John Wick and Die Hard. I really, really love those series of movies. But yeah, no, Pickle Rick is a great episode, one of my favorites. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. Let's move on. Season 3, Episode 4, Vindicators, World Ender. So I'm going to try and make these brief. Basically, it's like a spoof on Avengers. You got a bunch of superheroes and whatever, and it's Morty's adventure because he has control of every 10 adventures. He gets to do an adventure with Rick, and he gets to choose. So basically, Morty goes on an adventure with Rick, and they're with these Vindicators. And the Vindicators, like I said, are like the Avengers. They have superpowers, and they're superheroes, and they're trying to get this guy named World Ender that's trying to destroy the world. And Morty ends up telling Rick that he idolizes them, and Morty never said that to Rick. So Rick gets offended, and he starts drinking, and he gets really fucking drunk, and then all of a sudden in the morning, like he actually he got so drunk that he killed World Ender, like completely destroyed him, ripped his guts out, and then he when the Vindicators were out with them to try and kill World Ender, they found World Ender dead, and then Rick he did like a Saw type, like the movie Saw. He pretty much sawed the Vindicators. Like one by one, they died because of Rick, and like he planned all that crap out when he was drunk and shit, and he like killed the Vindicators one by one till there was one left, and then it ended up the Vindicator supernova was trying to kill Morty and Rick because like Rick killed all the Vindicators, so she wanted to get even, but Rick actually threw a giant party on the roof of where World Ender lived, and while he was really, really drunk still, like he planned a party, he killed World Ender, and he killed all the Vindicators and shit. Planned all that out when he was drunk, and I'm just like, damn, like what the fuck, this guy's ruthless. But no, it ends with a giant party with a bunch of different characters from Rick and Morty and shit. So yeah, I like this episode. I watch it sometimes. So yeah, it's a decent episode. Let's move on. All right. Okay. Season 3, Episode 5. This is where it kind of falls off for me. Basically, Rick and Jerry go on an adventure and whatever, and over at the Smith residence, Summer is like kind of feeling self-conscious, so she tries to use a morphizer to morphize her body, make her boobs bigger, but it ends up like turning her into a weird monster, and then Beth tries to fix it, makes it worse, and then blah blah blah. But Jerry and Rick go out on an adventure to try and give Jerry a win, because Rick and Jerry don't get along. Rick doesn't like Jerry because he stole his daughter, even though Rick left. But whatever, I digress. So Jerry and Rick go on this adventure, and then people want to kill Rick, and then so they try and they ask Jerry if Jerry can take Rick onto the Whirly Durly, which is like a really weird roller coaster that whatever, and they're in an invulnerability field, so you can't die, and where Rick and Jerry go. So, but there's like a little space up top on the Whirly Durly ride that you can actually die at. So it's pretty cool. It's a good episode. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. So yeah, I like this episode, but like I said, this is where season 3 kind of falls off for me. I don't watch it that much, but I do enjoy it when I do. All right, so let's move on to season 3, episode 6, Rest and Relaxation. So basically, in the beginning of the episode, Rick and Morty go on this really fucked up adventure, and they almost die. And they're just like, dude, we need a vacation from this shit. So they go to an alien spa, and they get all they go into this machine, and their toxins come out of their body and get put into the machine, and they're much different now. So it's like, Rick and Morty aren't their typical selves. Like, Rick is a lot more polite and whatever, and like all the toxicity has been removed from his body. And Morty is a lot more confident, and he's more confident with the ladies and whatever. And Morty turns into like towards the end of the episode, he turns into like Leonardo DiCaprio from Wolf of Wall Street. And it's a lot of fun. It's a good episode, but yeah, like I said, the last half of the season kind of falls off. So I'm gonna put Rest and Relaxation in watch sometimes. It's because I do watch it sometimes, but like I said. So let's move on to the Rick Lantis mix-up, season 3, episode 7. So the Rick Lantis mix-up, actually, like, Rick and Morty are talking about going to Atlantis and whatever, and then the Citadel of Rick's is being rebuilt. So a Rick and a Morty from the Citadel are just like, oh yeah, support the Citadel to get rebuilt and whatever, and Rick and Morty are just like, no, we destroyed that fucking place. Like, we didn't want it in the first place. So basically, that's the only time you really see Rick and Morty until like the end of the episode. And it just it flashes to like the Tales of the Citadel. It basically shows you what's going on in the Citadel, like while Rick and Morty are out doing their shit. So it gives you an insight on how the Citadel works and whatever. So there's like a bunch of shit happening, like working. A Rick is like a working stiff who's trying to make ends meet just like any other normal person in the Citadel. And, he's unhappy with his job. His boss is a dick. And, he ends up killing his boss and whatever. And then there's another part of the Citadel where, a cop, a Rick cop and a Morty cop are, trying to figure out what's happening. There's like Mortys that are homeless and they're in gangs or whatever. And, the Morty's the corrupt cop, and, the Rick cop is trying to do right. Trying to be a cop. But, and also like they're trying to, have elections for a new, president of the Citadel. And a Morty runs, and it ends up being, the Morty ends up being president of the Citadel, and it's actually Evil Morty. So Evil Morty comes back in this episode, and when I first saw that, I was just like, oh my god, my fucking mind is blown. But, yeah, so that's pretty much the episode in a whole. It just tells you what's going on in the Citadel, how it works, and it's interesting. I actually do really like this episode a lot, to be honest with you. But, alright, where is it, though? Where is this episode? Because I'm gonna put it. Yeah. This is the ending scene. I'm gonna put it in good because I really like this episode. But the episode ends with with Rick and Morty coming back from Atlantis, and they're talking about how they got some sweet mermaid puss. So that's where the episode ends. I love that. I love that episode. I really do. And they're talking about, yo, we're going back for seconds. Like, we're gonna get some more mermaid puss. That's funny. But yeah, that's Rest in Relaxation. I think it's a good episode. It's not my favorite, but it's a good episode. So let's move on. Morty's Mind Blowers. I'm not really, honestly, a big fan of this episode. I wish that they would have done Interdimensional Cable 3 instead. But it just shows you that, Rick can, erase memories from Morty's mind. And they go into, a section of the house where he has all these Morty's mind blowers, they call them, or mind blowers in general. And there's a bunch of memories erased that Rick and Morty are watching, or rewatching, re-remembering, and whatever. And Rick and Morty end up fighting, and they end up getting both of their memories erased completely almost. And there's a bunch of memories that are really fucked up. Like this one, Morty sees a smudge on a lens, and he thinks it's a person, that there's a person on the moon. When he looks into his telescope, it's really just a smudge on the lens, but it looks like a person. And it's really funny because like the man on the moon ends up like committing suicide somehow. It's like Morty causes that person's death, so Rick like has to erase his mind because of it. It's a pretty funny episode. It's very comical, but it's not my favorite episode by far. So I'm gonna put this episode in. Don't watch that much. I mean, there's not a whole lot about it that I really, like to go back and watch. There's not really, there's not really a lot of parts about the episode that, like, I'm absolutely in love with, like Pickle Rick or, whatever. So let's move on to Season 3, Episode 9, The ABCs of Beth. This is basically an episode that tells you, like, who Beth was before, when she was a little girl. And basically she's a lot more like Rick than she even thought. She realizes that. And, she basically like spent her whole life idolizing her father and loving her father, and thinking that he was a great guy, but in reality he's a very terrible person, and she's turning out exactly like him. And I feel like a lot of people, every person has a choice. They can either be like their parents, or they can, be the opposite. And Beth was one of those unfortunate circumstances that she ended up being just like her dad, which, that's not a good thing. That sucks, especially knowing how much of an asshole and a piece of shit Rick is, But overall, I really like this episode because, like I said, it tells you who Beth is as a person, and it gives you a little insight on, like, her relationship with Rick too. The fact that, Rick loves her and he just wants to see the best for her. So basically she's like, who am I and what do I do? Like, how do I live with this? And he's just like, well, being smart is a curse. The only thing you really can do is, bail on, your family for a little bit and try and figure yourself out. And he's just like, I can make a clone of you and whatever, and help you with that. I think it's Rick trying to be a good guy, but in reality, it's like, that's a pretty shitty thing to do. So there's that. But, at the end of the episode, he's just like, Beth is just like, all right, I made my decision. After that, she's left guessing whether she's a clone or not, which plays into the, the end, the next episode and the episode, the fourth season. They don't really tell you, so it's like a little cliffhanger on itself, like an unanswered question. It's like, is Beth a clone or not? So yeah, I really do like this episode. It's a lot of fun, and there's also like, Rick created a world for Beth when she was a kid because she was a really scary kid, and he wanted to kind of like, take her out of the real world, or else he'd have to clone a lot of people because she would like she was like kind of like a crazy messed up kid. and she pushed her friend Tommy into a vat of honey inside of the world Rick built for her. It's called Fruity Land. And he ended up being trapped there for like so many years. And people thought that Tommy's dad actually ate him and committed cannibalism, but in reality, Tommy was just stuck in Fruity Land. And she goes into Fruity Land to try and rescue him, and he doesn't want to. And how Tommy survived in Fruity Land for so long was he was having sex with like the weird creatures that are in Fruity Land, and like eating his babies, which is like really fucked up. It's like an incest slash cannibalism, story. But overall, I really like this episode because I do like Beth as a character. I think she's one of the best characters in the series, to be honest with you. She has so much depth to her, and I like how they left the end of the episode at a nice little cliff note. So I'm gonna put this in. I'm gonna put this in the good category. I really like this episode. So let's move on to season 3, episode 10. The Rick Churi and Morty date. So basically, all this episode is Beth is thinking that she's a clone throughout the whole episode and asking Rick, like, hey, am I a clone? Would you tell me if I was a clone? And then Rick says, you don't want me to tell you if you're a clone because then I'd have to kill you, blah, blah, blah. But Rick the whole time is like having a giant dick measuring contest with the president of the United States. And they're just going back and forth, like kicking the shit out of each other and like, all for, the president of the United States to give Morty a selfie, to take a selfie with Morty. And it's like, I think this is probably the episode, if any, that I really don't like. It's just, I hate the dynamic of, two people just, not getting along and having just a giant dick measuring contest for a whole episode or a whole movie or whatever. To me, it's just kind of annoying and really played out, But on the flip side, it's still an episode of Rick and Morty, like I said, and there are pretty funny moments and cool moments. Definitely check that out when you get the chance. I don't remember off the top of my head. I really don't watch this episode all that much. I think I watched it like twice, and that's it. But yeah, I'm going to put it on the bottom of the bottom, really, because I honestly don't really like this episode all that much. But yeah, but that also ends the season 3, obviously, but it also brings that question into your head, like, is Beth a clone? As time goes on, like, Beth acts a little bit different. You could tell that there's something off, that maybe she's either a clone or something. So we'll see with season 4, episode 1. So season 4, episode 1 came out the beginning of this year, I think. I'm pretty sure. Either that, it was like the tail end of 2019. But it's called Rick Die, Rick Pete. So basically now, like, Beth is back with Jerry again. They're not having, they're not getting a divorce or anything. Like, they're solid and back together. So Rick is left being like the lowest status character in the TV show, which I find hilarious because he's like the most powerful. He's a god, literally. He could do anything. So basically in this episode, he goes on an adventure with Morty to get some time crystals. And Morty is obsessed with the time crystals because it shows a future with him and Jessica, his high school crush. It shows a memory, a future, memory of how he's gonna die, and he wants to die with Jessica. So he basically keeps one of the death crystals in his pocket and all that shit, and he's able to predict when he's gonna die. So he tries to avoid the shit that's gonna stop him from growing old with Jessica, essentially. So he thinks. But Morty accidentally kills Rick by crashing the spaceship into a rock, and Rick gets impaled and he dies. But Rick can come back in a separate reality. It's known as the Phoenix Project. And he can come back, but in like a separate reality because he doesn't have the Phoenix, the Phoenix experiment. He acts the protocol during Big Trouble in Little Sanchez. But basically, he comes back in different realities, and it's all like fascist realities. Like he comes back, as a normal person at first, and then that reality is a fascist reality. So he has to like, kill a Nazi Morty and whatever, and then he comes back as a shrimp who that society is also fascist, and they kill him. And then he comes back as Teddy Bear, and that reality is fascist. So it's like, dude, what the fuck? Like, how many realities are full of Nazis, But then he finally comes back into reality where he's a wasp, and they're not fascists. They're actually pretty good wasp people. People are wasps. But also Rick and Morty has this time crystal, and he's just doing this fucked up shit. Like, he's like killing a bunch of cops and whatever, like, beating the shit out of bullies, and using a bunch of Meeseeks boxes to cause havoc and shit like that. And basically he turns himself into an Akira, which is like a very popular anime. It's about a kid that turns himself, that has powers, and he turns himself into like a grotesque monster. That just keeps growing and growing and growing and doesn't stop. So he literally turns himself into an Akira, and Rick comes back and tries to and saves Morty with help of Wasp Rick. So I like this episode. When it first came out, I was like, it blew my mind. I think I don't think it's a favorite episode of mine now because I've watched it so damn much, but it's a good episode for sure. So I'm going to put that there. So let's move on. Season 4, episode 2. Oh, yes. I love this episode. The old man in the seat. So basically, Rick, he's a shy pooper. So he creates this world where he has a toilet seat, and he could just poop and look at, a nice sunrise, and everything's beautiful, and it's just his private shitting place on his toilet, his toilet. But he finds out somebody shit on his toilet and whatever, and he's trying to look for revenge, and he finds out who did it, and that person ends up actually being a pretty good friend because he's very fearless, and Rick admires that in people. So but yeah, no, it's kind of crazy how he has this private pooping spot where only he knows and only he could shit there. But and also on the other side of things at the house, Jerry developed an app with Rick's intern Gluty, who his society of people. It's like Rick doesn't want anybody to develop his app because he's trying to fuck up society. So I'm just gonna put this episode in favorite right now because this is one of my favorite episodes. But yeah, so he basically tries to Jerry gets the app developed even though Rick tells him not to, because Jerry's a dumbass, and Jerry and Morty have to fix the problem and whatever, and Summer ends up using the app. It's actually like a dating app, but it's like it kind of hypnotizes you into falling in love with somebody digitally, and you have to find that person, and it's like it kind of goes from person to person to person to person, and the app is really stupid and lame, and it doesn't really work. But yeah, so Rick has his own conflict, and Beth and Summer battle it out a little bit, and to stop Summer from hooking up with all these dudes and whatever. So yeah, I mean, I love this episode. It's a lot of fun to watch, and it's hilarious. It's a hilarious episode. So let's move on to. Also, I might add, it's like 6 a.m. right now, so I've been filming this for almost 2 hours now. So yeah, I'm pretty fucking tired. I haven't even gotten to sleep yet. So let's move on to season 4, episode 3. One crew over the cuckoo's nest. To be honest with you, this episode, I don't really like it that much. It's very confusing. It's basically like Rick and Morty go to try and find an artifact, and somebody already stole it or took it or whatever. And he wants revenge on the guy, Miles Knightley. He thinks he's a hack, that Miles is a hack. And, basically he doesn't like the guy, and, he assembles a crew. And it's like a really shitty heist movie. I don't really like heist movies, so obviously I'm not going to like this episode. But, yeah, it's basically like a heist episode where Rick is trying to, hire a crew. At least, Mr. Poopy Butthole comes back in this episode, which I was really happy about. But other than that, the episode kind of falls flat to me. So I'm going to put it where it belongs. Let's see. Yeah, so right here. All right. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. They assemble a crew, and then, Rick builds a bunch of robots and yada yada, and they try and take over the Earth and whatever. So, yeah, it's not really that. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you've ever seen a fucking Ocean's 11, 12, 13, or 14, or whatever, how many ever, Ocean's movies there are, like, you'll be able to figure out what this episode's all about. Okay, so let's move on to Season 4, Episode 4, Claw and Hoarder, Special Victims Use, Special Victims Morty. Okay, I really fucking love this episode. This is an episode where Morty gets a dragon, and it's really cool. I fucking love dragons, so it's dope. But, Rick and the dragon accidentally soul bond, which is like, dragons are very sexual beings in this episode. And then basically they get stuck. Rick and the dragon get stuck soul bonded. So every time the dragon gets hurt, Rick gets hurt. So it's not a good thing for Rick. So basically he has to go into like a magic world where none of his gadgets work, and he has to be able to, use magic to kind of take on this wizard who is like, he doesn't like like he takes the dragon because like supposedly soul bonding is a very sexual experience. So he takes the dragon and he prepares to hang the dragon for its misdeeds, because you're not allowed to be soul bonded to multiple people. He was already soul bonded to Morty, and now he's soul bonded to Rick. So it's a really funny episode. There's a point in time where they go into like a cave, and there's a bunch of slut dragons who just have sex with each other all day, and that's what they do, because they're slut dragons, and that's how they have fun. And then there's this one fucking dragon that's on top of a cliff, and he's just like, oh yeah, we like it down here because we could fuck woolly mammoths. And then he has a woolly mammoth right next to him, and it's just like, and then the other dragons are just like, they're just like, it's like, shut the fuck up. You're the only dragon that fucks that thing. Shut the fuck up. It's like, it's such a funny episode. I love this episode so much, like with every fiber of my being. I didn't like it at first when I first saw it, because when I first saw it, all the curse words were bleeped out, so I didn't really get what most of the dragons were trying to say. But it's so good. I'm gonna put this in the favorite category, because it's just a really fun episode. Rick learns how to use magic and ends up hating it, and then the wizard dies. And then the dragons and Rick and Morty and Summer have this soul orgy, which is like, they're not physically having sex or anything, but it's like a soul orgy where, like, I guess it's like a very sexual experience. So basically it's like incest on 3 accounts. So it's definitely a little bit crazy, but it's a really fun episode. I really enjoy it, and having dragons in Rick and Morty is a definite plus. So, yeah, let's move on to Rattlestar Galactica. Okay, this is an episode where they fuck with time travel. Yeah, this is their first time fucking with time travel. I really didn't like this episode, so I'm going to put it in don't watch it all. I saw it maybe 1 or 2 times, and it just, I don't know. It's like Morty's kind-hearted nature kind of gets the best of him in this episode. Like, he killed a snake by accident that was an astronaut. And snakes have this own society where they're like humans and they're more evolved and whatever. And, he tries to do right. So he buys a snake from a pet store, and he he tries to replace it with that snake, but then the snakes find out, and now they realize, oh shit, there's another area or another part of the universe that, people are threats. So the snakes end up, doing like a Terminator thing, kind of, to like, try and destroy the planet, because they know that Earth is a threat now. So, and they know that they exist. I think the only favorite part that I like about this episode is snake jazz. It's so good. I love snake jazz. It's the best. But I mean, that's the only thing I really like about this episode. It's not special to me. It's just they could have just left time travel alone. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's a Rick and Morty episode. Whatever. And they decided to do something new and do something that they said they didn't want to do, is time travel, which, like I said, I think they should have left it alone. But let's go to the next episode. Season 4, episode 6. It's Never Rick and Morty. Basically, Rick and Morty are on or supposed Rick and Morty are on a train, and a bunch of shit is happening. People are plotting to kill Rick. People have stories about Christmas, and Rick. And then there's this cut ass fucking train conductor and whatever, and he tries to basically this episode is there to break the fourth and fifth wall. So it definitely does that pretty well. Yeah, I mean, it's a very confusing episode, but you get to see characters again, like Tammy, Phoenix Person. Which, I mean, after Bird Person dies, Tammy turns Bird Person into Phoenix Person. I forgot to mention that. But yeah, Phoenix Person, get to see a glimmer of them. But it's not continuity. It's like that's the whole point of the episode. It's like to show you things that aren't continuity. So, but this episode is alright, I guess. I barely watch it though. I'll watch it a few times, whatever. They refer to guys' abdominal muscles as cum gutters, which is like, it's kind of a gross term. It is pretty gross, but it's like, cause it's like, why is it a cum gutter? Like, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, I like the episode for what it is. But like I said, is it my favorite episode? No. So, let's move on to, Season 4, Episode 7, Prometheus. It's basically a spoof on Prometheus. It's like a very Alien-style movie. Or a very Alien-style episode, rather. Yeah, it's basically like Rick and Morty and Summer going to a place, and they get face huggers, put on their face and whatever. And it's very simple. It's pretty much the premise. And then, they pretty much, destroy the whole city of the, of the face huggers and whatever. And they also have this, like, really fucked up 9/11 joke where, like, they're destroying the city and then there's, like, these twin towers that are there. And they, like, awkwardly skate around them, instead of blowing them up, which is, a very tasteless joke. But it's Rick and Morty. And honestly, if you don't have that stuff in TV and in TV shows, like, it's like, you should feel free to do whatever it is that you want to do without offending people. And it's like, it didn't offend me. It was definitely a very off-color, way of, comedically, just doing something. But they ended up bombing Pearl Harbor, which is like, okay, I mean, it's definitely better than, bombing, the World Trade Center. But this episode was alright. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot in this episode that's really that great. I mean, Summer ends up being, like, the head of the, the society. So, I don't know. I'm gonna put it on barely watch, because I honestly barely watched this episode. Okay, so, let's move on to, like, honestly, one of my favorite episodes. Season 4, Episode 8, the Vat of Acid episode. This episode is fucking awesome. basically Rick and Morty, like Rick has this plan, like this evacuation plan. Like if things go south and they're doing this like diamond, exchange with a gang. It's like if things don't work out, like go into the same vat of acid I do, jump into the same vat of acid that I jump into, and it has like a ventilator, so you can breathe under the water. It's water. It's like a fake vat of acid that they jump into, and it has like a little latch for bones, so it could rise up to the top and look like the acid killed them, and their bones are rising up. It's a good episode, and then the gangsters actually spend way too much time up there just talking and whatever and trying to, like wondering if if the bones are real and whatever. And Morty gets fed up with it and ends up just killing the dudes, instead of just like hiding. And then Rick gets all pissed off and Morty says, yo, that plan was hacky. Like, a vat of acid. What were you thinking? Are you going senile or something? And Rick gets all pissed off. And then, Morty's just like, I have good ideas too, and you never ever want to hear them. And he's just like, what ideas of yours are good, Morty? And Morty's just like, he brings up this device where it's like a video game, and it's like a save point in a video game, but it's real life. And you press a button to save, and like in real time, in real life, and you could do something and then press a button to go back to your save point like nothing ever happened. So Rick is just like, I'm not going to make that. That's stupid. And then Morty cons him into making it, and Rick gets all pissed off, and he's making it. And then, Rick makes it for him, and Morty goes out and has fun with it. And there's barely any dialogue in the time that Morty's, using the save point, the life, the real life save point thing. But it gets really fucked up. It's like, he does actually a lot of shitty things. Morty does with that thing. He like tips over an old person's, wheelchair at one point. He runs at a police officer full force and gets suicided by cops. So it's like Morty is just like unhinged. He's able to do whatever he wants and experience whatever he wants. With no consequences, so he thinks. And then he ends up fast forwarding to like him meeting a girl at a coffee shop, and them getting along, and it's like a relationship, and that they end up dating and whatever, and they get into fights and arguments just like normal couples do. And then, they get into this one fight, and, they stop talking for a little bit, and then Morty shows up at her house with some tickets, and they go on a plane flight somewhere, and the plane crashes. And Morty, the backpack, when the plane crashes, it flies out of the plane, so he's not able to fast forward to, to rewind, to his save point. He's kind of stuck, in that shitty situation, and they're stuck in like the mountains, and Morty and his girlfriend end up having to eat a person and be a cannibal, because like that's how you survive. If there's some dead person there and you're barely alive and you're freezing to death, like you're probably gonna have to eat somebody. So they do this, so they eat people, and then Morty goes off on his own to try and find the save point button thingy. And he ends up finding it, but he decides to try and call 911 instead. And then, it was just a really fucked up thing. And then, and then they end up surviving and going to the hospital, and then they're back home. And then Jerry, takes the button out of Morty's backpack and thinks it's the remote control for the TV. And he fucking presses the button, and Morty goes all the way back to before he even met that girl. So it's like it didn't even happen. So it's like that blew my fucking mind when I first saw that. I was just like, what the hell? Like, that's crazy. Hold on, I'm gonna take a sip of water. My throat's getting a little dry. But I was like, what the hell did I just watch? Like, like Morty lived this relationship with this girl for a while, and Jerry just deletes it all like it never happened. Like, that's fucking nuts. And then it turns out that Morty actually did have consequences for his actions and everything that he did when he was rewinding, back to his save point. And Rick is just like, well, your only option here is to, either suffer the consequences or go into this vat of acid. And like, he basically like, Rick is like teaching him a lesson, like, never insult me, never insult what I do, because what I do is always fucking right and you're always wrong, Morty. And like, damn, like teaching him that cold hard lesson of like grandpa's always right, and just going through that elaborate plan to like get Morty to admit that the vat of acid was a good episode. The whole episode is just fucking amazing. Like, it's so well crafted, so well done. I love this episode. I really do. It's definitely my favorite from the 4th season, that's for sure. Or maybe. Well, who knows? Whenever we get to, rearranging it. I got 2 more episodes left, so. But yeah, I love the Vat of Acid episode. It's such a good episode. But let's go to season 4, episode 9, The Chilled Rick of Mort, which basically Jerry wants to go camping with the family, and then this girl is trying to call Rick up, and she's pregnant and whatever, and Beth won't leave it alone because Rick abandoned her when she was a kid. So basically Rick is just like, all right, and like he reveals that it's not a person that he had sex with and he's having a baby with. He fucked a planet. He had sex with a planet. So basically they go to this planet, and instead of going camping, and Jerry still wants to camp, and and Beth makes Summer and Morty go camping, but they don't even really want to go camping. All Morty wants to do is play video games, and all Summer wants to do is go on spring break and do a bunch of drugs. So it's like that's where the characters are kind of headed now, in that direction. But Rick has to deliver these kids and whatever, and it's like a geyser gushing full of just like sentient rock children, and it's like he ends up being smart about it and like dividing them into sorting them out into different groups, and like mathematicians here, and the undesirable people here, and blah blah blah. And it turns out that like those aren't even Rick's kids, because a giant Zeus, or like God or Zeus or something, comes down from the heavens, and he's just like oh well, we thought that they were your children, Rick, because they're so small. And like, and basically like the Zeus is like insulting Rick and shit like that. And and then they literally they have they fight, and it's like a god versus Rick, who is also a god, and it's just like 2 gods like fighting with each other, like 2 dads at a soccer game. The developers said they wanted it to be like, it's like 2 dads beating the shit out of each other at like a football game or a baseball game, and it's a really really awesome fight, and that fucking god almost kills Rick, almost kicks his fucking ass, and it's a good episode, it's a good time, and but Morty and Summer end up getting a hold of this ship, and they're trying to do drugs and play video games in order to operate this ship, and they end up actually saving Rick's life in general, because the ship crashes right into the head of this god Zeus, and it kills him instantly, and it like almost goes through his forehead, and like Rick is just like, oh no, and Summer and Morty are just like, Papa, we did bad, we did drugs and played video games, and Rick is just like, no, you did good, you saved Grandpa's life, video games and drugs are great, they're a good thing. And like he's just like, I would never sell you out to your parents. And then at the end of the episode, he literally sells them out for like literally no reason. So it's just a really, really fun episode. I like this episode. It's I can put it in the favorite list and be happy with that. Yeah, I definitely think it's a good episode. The fourth season is actually really good. I don't have a lot of beef or quarrels with a lot of the episodes. I mean, you know, when an episode in Rick and Morty in season 4 is bad, it's really bad. Honestly, it's like the Rattlestar episode isn't that great, and the One Crew Over the Cuckoo's Nest isn't that great either. Neither is Primordius, or definitely never ending Ricking, or whatever the episode's name is. I forget. But yeah, no. The fourth season is great. So the last episode that came out in season 4, and in general the last episode that they made, was Star Mort, Return of the Jerry, and it's like a spoof on Star Wars and shit, the Return of the Jedi. And basically, Beth, another version of Beth, is somewhere fighting the Intergalactic Federation. So, like, she's doing what Rick did. And so it basically answers the question of whether Beth is a clone or not. And, and she is. Like, the Beth that they've been living with in the house is a clone. And this other Beth, who is fighting the Gromflamites, is the real Beth. And he sent her out into space to do whatever the fuck she wanted. So it's this is a really, really good episode. It's definitely a good way to end the series. So basically, Beth finds something in the back of her neck that is like a bomb, a triggered device to kill her if she comes into the proximity of Earth. And she goes to Earth. She gets that thing removed from her neck, and she comes to Earth to kill Rick because he's an asshole. Like, why would he do that? That's fucked up. So she does that, and then you see that the Galactic Federation comes to Earth. It's coming to Earth, and Tammy and Bird Person are back, and Tammy is trying to kill Beth because Beth is now wanted, dead or alive from the by the Galactic Federation. So Tammy and Beth are trying to kill each other and whatever, and yeah, so Tammy comes back, and a whole bunch of stuff happens, and the old Beth and Rick go to Shoney's and get a beer and whatever, and it's a good time, and the whole time Morty and Summer are fighting over this Invisibelt that makes you invisible. So they help Rick kill Tammy or whatever, and so Tammy dies, and the Beths are held hostage in the Citadel's spaceship, which is like, it's built like the Death Star in Star Wars. So yeah, they're held captive there, and then Bird Person is inside of the the Death Star looking thing. And Rick and Bird Person come to blows. Like, they go at it Mortal Kombat style. Like, they do like X-ray moves and shit. It's awesome. I love this episode. And basically Bird Person beats the shit out of Rick yet again. 2 episodes in a row where Rick literally loses a fight. Like, his guts are hanging out at one point too. Like, his liver is out and shit and everything. And it's just, dude, that fight is epic. And then basically Beth and Rick wins the battle, and the whole episode is kind of teased that that Rick doesn't know who the clone, or which Beth is really the clone and which one isn't. So, and the reason why he didn't know is because he mind-blowered himself in order to kind of forget which one it was, and he did it on purpose, I guess. I don't know. That's kind of a dick thing to do. I mean, but it's just like, it's a really great episode, and the episode ends with like him, finding out that he's finally realizing that he's a really, really shitty father, and it cuts to him at the end just sitting down and just like being alone, all alone, and just like just thinking like, wow, I'm really a piece of shit. I'm really not a good person at all. So it was definitely a feelsy episode, very impactful. It brought an end to the Tammy and Phoenix Person arc, which Phoenix Person is still alive. Rick has Phoenix Person in the garage. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good way to end season 4. I really enjoyed season 4 a lot, and so I'm definitely gonna put this in the favorite category. So yeah, so now that I talked about all the episodes, I'm gonna rearrange them from what I like the least to what I like the best. So I'm gonna put the Rick Churian Morty date all the way at the end. I don't really like that episode really all that much. I'll put the One Crew of the Cuckoo's Nest right here. I don't really like that episode too much either. I don't really watch it at all. I'll put the Battlestar Rick Lactica right here because, like, Snake Jazz. Why not? Okay. Wrinkle in Time right here. And I'll put this one over here. And yeah, those belong over there. So that's good. So I'll rearrange the barely watched ones. Barely watch. Let's see. I'll put the introduction to Evil Morty right at the top. And I'll put Primordius right here. And Night Shyamalan's right there, and that one right there. So that's good. Let's see. I'm gonna put this right here because Taika Waititi's awesome. And the Whirly Durly Conspiracy right under that. This one right here, and Anatomy Park right there. Mind Blowers right there. Makes sense. I'm gonna put. Let's see. I'm gonna put Rest and Relaxation right at the top of Watch sometimes. I'm gonna put the Vindicators one right under that. Rixty Minutes belongs right there, and Big Trouble in Little Sanchez, and then Get Schwifty right there. I'm definitely satisfied with that. And then let's see. Which one do I like the best out of this one? I really like Tales from the Citadel, but I also really like this too, and I like this one too. Let's see. I'm gonna put Tales from the Citadel right there. I'm gonna keep the very first episode second. I'm gonna put that at the top of good. Tales from the Citadel right there. Let's see. Rick Shank Redemption I'm gonna put right there. I'm gonna put the Death Crystal one right there. Auto-Erotic right there. Wedding Squatchers up a little bit. ABC's of Beth, and then the Purge episode. And then now we're gonna get into my favorite of favorites. So, damn. All right. So I'm gonna put Meeseeks and Destroy. Or no, I'm gonna put. I'm gonna put the Inception episode down, and then I'll put Meeseeks and Destroy right under that. Because actually, the second episode of Rick and Morty ever is the one that really got me hooked onto the series, so I can't forget that. Rick Potion number 9 is definitely above that one. Total Recall, right in the middle of Scary Terry and the Meeseeks episode. Interdimensional Cable. That's definitely up there, for sure. Do I like it better than Rick Potion number 9, though? Yeah. No. Yeah, I do. Okay, yeah. Rick Mancing the Stone is definitely above Interdimensional Cable 2. Pickle Rick. God damn, Pickle Rick. I'm I'm going to put this one above Rick Mansing the Stone. The Old Man in the Seat, I'm going to put right under Pickle Rick. Yeah. And then Claw and Hoarder, I'm going to put right under... right under Interdimensional Cable 2. The Vat of Acid episode. I'm going to put the one where Rick fucks a planet. I'm going to put that on the bottom because I do like it. It should be in the favorites, actually. I could put that at the top of good because I really like the episode. I like the fight between the Zeus and Rick. It's really, really entertaining. I'm going to put the season finale of 4 right above Rick Mansing the Stone, or right under it. Yeah, right under it. Because I still watch Rick Mansing the Stone a lot. And the Vat of Acid episode, I feel like, is so good. I don't know whether it's on the level of Old Man in the Sea and Pickle Rick, though. But honestly, I think the Vat of Acid episode is probably the best episode I've seen of Rick and Morty. I mean, Pickle Rick's good too, though. Like, it's a tough one. It really is. That's hard. That's really, really hard for me to decide. Yeah, I think I'm going to put the Vat of Acid episode as number 1. I mean, I feel like it was the most impactful. Like, it was definitely really feelsy. Like, I mean, you know, the whole time Morty has that, you know, that stop device and just the Vat of Acid in general. Like, Rick just doing all that shit and torturing Morty just to try and prove a fucking point. Like, that just hammers home how much of an asshole Rick is. And, you know, and how gullible Morty is to, you know, take an invention that Rick makes and, you know, not even let Rick explain because Morty trusts Rick even though Rick's an asshole. And Morty lives this life for months, you know, with a girl that he really loves. And, you know, it ends up being forgotten about. And, you know, it's crazy. Yeah, I think I'm going to put the Vat of Acid episode as number 1. I do like Pickle Rick a lot. And I do watch it or rewatch it a lot. I do like the Old Man in the Seat too, though. But yeah, that's under Pickle Rick. So yeah, it's a Vat of Acid episode, Pickle Rick, Old Man in the Seat, Rick Mansing the Stone, Star Mort, Return of the Jerry, Interdimensional Cable 2, Claw and Hoarder, Rick Potion number 9, Scary Terry episode, Total Recall, and Meeseeks and Destroy. So yeah, that's my list on Tier Maker. I want to say thank you for sticking it out with me. Honestly, this tier list ended up being 2.5 hours long. So hope you guys enjoy. Hope you guys watch the whole thing. Definitely please like and subscribe. Like I said, if you're new to the channel and really like Rick and Morty and like my work as a YouTuber and like the content that I put out, I really, really try and bust my butt for you guys. So, you know, liking and subscribing would be awesome. And like I said, if you guys want to support me another way, Patreon is definitely the way to go. So yeah, I'll leave that in the description, and I will talk to you guys later. You guys are awesome. And peace out, everybody. I hope you enjoyed my tier list. Have a good night. Be safe out there. And just try not to, you know, go too crazy, because the times that we live in right now is very hard. And I know it. You know it. We're all living it. So, you know, thank you guys for watching. Peace out, guys. And I will see you guys tomorrow with my Tekken 2 playthrough. That's going to be fun. I really love Tekken 2. So, anyways, like I said, thank you, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace out, guys. Mwah. Much love.